Ever since Orion popped into the world, he's been seeing things nobody else can, mysterious glowing orbs drifting through the air all around town. Later in class, his teacher leaned in and said, "Mana is the life energy that fills the whole world, and controlling it is what people call magic," explaining that it was first forged as a survival weapon to drive monsters back. The teacher snaps the lesson back on, saying anyone with the right gift can unleash magic just by speaking the chants, and Orion sits still in his seat, scribbling notes while he drinks in every word. While Orion stares at the teacher's display, he spots the glowing spheres vanish the instant magic hits, so now he's almost certain those orbs are living, physical forms of mana. The teacher clocks how laser-focused Orion is, then smirks and calls him out, demanding he step to the front of the room for a real, hands-on test of the lesson. Before Orion can even move, another student rockets their hand into the air and blurts out to the teacher. Daniel, a kid with a smug smirk, looks the teacher dead in the eye and says it's a total waste of time to let Orion try, because he's got zero magical talent. Emily steps in to tell Daniel to stop, but he doesn't back down. He gets defensive fast, snaps at her, and shoots back, "So you're really taking Orion's side." Daniel whips around to Orion and jabs a finger at him, snapping that he needs to quit pretending he can see things because he's not special, he's just desperate for attention. Orion's eyes flare with annoyance at the accusation, and he calmly shuts it down. He's not trying to pull any stunts or steal the spotlight. Orion looks back on his life and realizes the cruel joke. He keeps running into mana even though he has zero talent to use it, and that makes everything way harder than it should be. While the other kids were out there practicing magic nonstop, he was stuck inside his own head, drowning in doubt. In a flashback, a hooded man thrusts out his hand to soothe Orion, telling him straight up that he knows this road has been brutal for him, right up until now. Orion tells you this was the day he first ran into that old man, the same one who would later become his teacher, and he still remembers staring at him, like the man could see every secret in his soul. An old man locks eyes with him and spits the truth. He's not supposed to hate the way he is, or the eyes he was born with. While glowing mana orbs drift between them, the teacher leans in and tells Orion, "One day, your rare vision won't just matter, it'll be what the whole world desperately needs." As the memories crumble, Daniel erupts, screaming Orion's name at the top of his lungs, then jabs a finger straight at him and declares he's officially kicked out of the party. Orion gets blindsided, snaps at Daniel and demands, "What's going on?" because they've been a team for ages. Daniel can't take another word. He snaps and screams at Orion to shut up, calling him a useless loser. Orion freezes in the doorway, utterly baffled, and blurts out what he's talking about for calling him useless. Daniel smirks and snaps that he's nothing but dead weight for the group, and the crazy part, Daniel's stunned Orion still hasn't clocked how badly he's been dragging them down. Daniel keeps hammering Orion with insults, laughing at him for riding along with a legendary hero's party while still botching even the simplest magic. Then he sneers that Orion only hasn't been booted earlier because they're childhood friends, like Orion should be thanking him for letting him stick around this long. Orion doesn't even waste his breath arguing. He already knows the truth. He stares at the ground, admitting to himself that his magic doesn't match the rules and doesn't work the way it's meant to. Even with every flaw dragging him down, Orion still pushes forward, insisting his magic has carried the party every single time. He's barely halfway through his point when Daniel snaps and orders him to shut up, and the other girls in the group stare at him like he's disgust in human form. Daniel barrels straight into his space, screaming that Orion's magic is so pathetic it's not even worth existing, and that it changes nothing for the team's success. Orion can't believe it. Daniel's been swallowing all this rage behind his back, and now he unleashes it, calling it a total disgrace to keep a loser in the group who can't even handle the 6 basic elements. Orion hit the brakes in his mind, drilling the logistics. Are they really ready to lose the one guy who's kept every shred of their magic alive so far? He knows the second he's gone, their firepower will crater without his support spells, and if they stumble into enemies that magic alone can hurt, they'll be in a world of trouble. Daniel bursts into laughter instead of listening, totally ignoring Orion's warning like it's nothing. Daniel smirks and drops the bombshell. He's been one step ahead the whole time, and he already has Orion's replacement lined up, a veteran mage who holds the rare quadruple element title, ready to take Orion's spot. The news slams into Orion like a punch, because he knows that title gets handed only to the absolute best mages alive, so when he learns someone of that caliber is joining the party, he can't ignore it anymore. He's basically useless to them now. Realizing there's no way back, Orion finally breaks and gives up. He tells Daniel he gets it, admits that if this is what they feel, there's nothing to do, then grips the door handle like it's the last step and walks away for good. Daniel doesn't even slow down. He shoves Orion away, snaps that he's a total dropout, and basically tells him to get lost, but Orion doesn't throw insults back. He just wears a small, sad smile and admits he's actually grateful they got to travel together for as long as they did. Daniel's face twists into a grin as he blurts that he can't wait to see Orion rod. Then he laughs at him for being a useless mage who can't even handle the basics, savoring the moment he watches Orion's life crumble now that he's been thrown out. Orion slips out of the group and storms into the hallway, racing toward the exit. Then the moment stretches out as doubt hits him. What's his next move? As he pushes deeper into the woods, reality slams into him. His guild has effectively stamped him rankless, and he knows it means no real party will risk bringing him along. Looking back, Orion can't stop thinking about his old party, how it was built from nothing but his childhood friends, right there with him for years, and now all that history is just gone, like someone ripped their whole past out of the world. He flashes back a year ago, back when the party was just born, like the very first day they set out is still burned into his memory, crystal clear, like it happened yesterday. In a flashback from his training days, a younger Orion tries to live by the rules of modern magic. He shouts for the mana of flame, chants it into a roaring bolt of fire, and aims to blast his enemy out of the sky. No matter how hard Orion tries, nothing moves. He just freezes, staring at his own hand in dead silence, and realizes the mana won't answer his voice or his chant at all. Then it hits him, this whole nightmare isn't the problem at all. It's modern magic theory itself, totally unlike what his eyes are seeing, and he realizes that if they shove him into using chants to control mana, he'll never be able to make it work. Orion refuses to follow the textbooks, so he stares straight at a glowing orb of energy and shouts right at the crimson mana waiting in front of him. Back in their school days, Emily replays it in her head. Eventually, Orion stopped bringing up his ability to see mana orbs, and as she watches him from afar, she can feel the shift in who he's become. Emily remembers how Daniel used to bully him, pointing him out and spitting, compulsive liar, like it was truth, and then it hits her. Daniel was probably just projecting his own desperate need for attention onto Orion. Even after everyone told Orion he had zero magic talent, Emily watched him keep showing up day after day, stubbornly refusing to quit his training. Emily rushes out to find him, sure he's at his usual training spot in the woods. Then Orion stands close by, locked onto something only he can see, shouting toward the crimson mana floating in the air. Emily slams to a halt, eyes snapping wide as she witnesses something she can't possibly explain. Orion roars for the magic to fire. Then a giant spinning ball of flames detonates right before him, and Emily just stands there, utterly stunned, her mind unable to even catch up with the sheer scale of it all. Orion is totally stunned. He gapes at the flame he just sparked like, wait, I actually did it. Emily softly calls his name, and Ryan jolts like he's been caught mid-crime. Then he looks at her face and realizes she saw the whole thing, including that bizarre spell he tried to pull off. Orion notices Emily trembling as she blurts out, how did you do that? Then it clicks, his magic isn't just rare, it's totally alien to what everyone else calls normal, the kind of power that their textbooks insist can't exist. Orion lets out a hollow laugh as it all clicks into place. He knows Emily must have been terrified after what she saw, but he can't help admiring the fact that she kept his secret and never told a single soul. Orion starts staring at his future and realizes that juggling his real power while trying to charm new friends is a nightmare. So for now, he decides it's smarter to skip joining yet another party. He sprawls out in the forest for a breather, then makes it official. Solo it is, at least for now, and after grinding with the hero's party for so long, he decides he's finally owed some quiet peace. No rush at all, so he decides to sink his teeth into the mystery behind his monocled eyes, taking his sweet time to crack what's really driving his power. The story cuts to a brutal mountain pass. Wolves swarm in and trap a carriage as a young female mage with her hair and pigtails digs in her heels, clutching an open spellbook while the growls creep closer. The merchant in the carriage looked stricken and blurted, "Can you really handle this?" And she shot back, "Don't worry," apologizing for the scare before she snapped, "Now get back and hide in the luggage," while she headed straight for the wolves. She snaps her eyes onto her targets, razor-focused, and shouts commands to the fire mana swirling around her. With her chant finally snapping into place, a glowing magic circle blooms under her feet, and she roars, forcing the flames to swarm into a single, devastating strike aimed straight at her enemies. She screams and hurls a fireball straight at the lead wolf, and the blast lands instantly, heat tearing through the whole path. The wolf gets blasted by the spell and screams in pain the moment that fire strikes true. Watching her work, the merchant's jaw drops. He blurts out praise about how incredible her magic is, and for the first time, he starts to feel like they might actually make it through alive. The pigtail mage's panic spikes. Sweat pours down as she realizes she's way out of her depth, scrambling for what to do next, while behind her, the clueless merchant cheers like it's all over, convinced they're finally safe. Things are getting way worse. An entire pack of monsters called bounce dogs is swarming the area, and the mage realizes there are way too many of them crowding in for her to deal with alone. From one of the wolves' eyes, the girl looks tiny and breakable as she fiercely guards the carriage and the horses, like she's ready to fight for them with nothing but courage. She scrambles to throw another fire spell, but she's already behind the clock. Then a wolf rockets forward with jaws gaping wide, and it hits her hard. She won't finish the chant in time to stop it. Right when the wolf is about to smash into her, a brutal wave of wind magic erupts out of nowhere and whips the monsters clean out of the way. Then the mage just stands there, book clutched to her chest, frozen in pure disbelief at what she's witnessing. Orion lunges onto the scene and fires, "Are you okay?" But she just freezes, staring at him like he dropped out of nowhere and she can't make sense of it. She shoots him a grateful look, but her mind is still spinning. Then it finally clicks. The terrifying, world-bending magic she just witnessed had to be his doing. As Orion stands beside her, she rushes to save what little pride she has left, telling him the only reason she struggled was that there were simply way too many enemies for one person to handle. She spins around and the nightmare isn't over. More wolves surge out of the trees, one after another, and she admits she's barely holding the line anymore. She glances at her book, then tells Orion, "Look, I know we just met, but I really need your help." The pigtail mage locks eyes with Orion, her face set in stone, and then drops her pride, asking him straight up to lend her a slice of his strength to get through what's coming. Orion doesn't even blink. He flashes her a warm smile and tells her, "Of course, I'll help." Orion stared at the pack of wolves surging toward him, then peered into the energy swirling around them, blue and green mana everywhere, but almost no red to fuel a proper strike, and his mind instantly raced on how to win with what he had. Orion turns his back on the girl and launches into a furious chant for a fire foundation, snapping the mage completely off his game as he blurts, "What are you doing?" Because fire makes no sense with no red mana in sight. Orion lunges forward, snatches a glowing orb out of thin air, and roars, "Emerald mana." Then he starts twisting the energy with his bare hand, and the air erupts into violent swirls as he lines up his next move. With one sharp command, Orion orders the energy to scatter. Then a colossal, spiraling storm of wind magic rockets from his hand, shredding everything ahead of the carriage. The wind doesn't just whip by, it hardens into deadly blades that slice clean through the wolves, and the monster pack doesn't even get a breath before the magic tears them apart in an instant. The mage is totally frozen in place, eyes bulging with pure shock. She's never witnessed anything move that fast, or hit that exact with zero room for error. The girl crumples to the ground, staring up at Orion like he's a walking nightmare, then blurts out, "Did you seriously just pull off chantless magic? Because that can't happen for a normal mage." Staring at the pile of defeated monsters, she can't even process it, and her mind is still scrambling, because she swears he wiped out an entire pack of bounce dogs in one single second. The pigtail mage stares up at Orion in pure disbelief, utterly rattled by what she just witnessed. Then she blurts out, "Wait, are you really a world-famous, high-ranking mage, and you're just hiding who you are?" Orion only shoots her a shy, sheepish grin and reaches out his hand. Then he admits, "I'm Orion, just some nobody." He even explains he's been kicked out of his old adventuring party, like that somehow makes him even less special. The girl doesn't buy a second of it. She barrels straight up to him, eyes blazing with excitement, and demands again, is he really the Lord Orion she's been picturing? Orion is completely thrown when she drops that formal title. He blurts it back with a stiff, awkward grin, and he can't figure out why she's acting like he's some kind of royalty all of a sudden. The pigtail mage is totally out of it now, clutching her chest like her heart might burst, glowing with pure joy, and she blurts that she never in a million years thought she'd run into someone like him out here. Orion just stares, convinced she's mixing him up with some other guy. She presses in even tighter, effectively pinning him there, and whispers that those simultaneous, chantless windcutters he used, that's practically a miracle, because she's dead sure there's no way he's anything less than a true master. Orion tries to set her straight, insisting that what he used wasn't even a wind cutter, but she barrels right past it, swooning and gushing like she's blind to everything else, while the merchant in the back finally exhales, grateful the threat is over for good. With stars blazing in her eyes, the girl blurts out a desperate plea. She begs Orion to take her as his apprentice, right this second. As she stares at him, memories crash in. Ever since she was a little kid, everyone called her a magic prodigy, and that belief led the noble Berg family to adopt her. She finally marched into the Royal Magic Academy, the place where every genius in the country gathers, and even in that sea of elites, she shined like a comet, snagging top marks and mastering 3 different kinds of elemental magic. Alice's mind races over her own standing. She even earned the rank of quadruple element because she can stack 4 different magical attributes into one devastating force. She's proud of everything she carved out through training, but that pride doesn't let her rest. She knows she can't sit back and call it enough. She still remembers that old goodwill match. When she saw Orion go up against the enemy, everything inside her shifted, like a door slamming open, and the shock hit her all at once. Watching him back then, she realized his magic sparked to life before his chants even landed, and that he was totally faking those chants just to mask how insanely fast he really moved. In that moment, she couldn't deny it. Her magic still had a long way to go before it could ever match his. She made her decision on the spot. She'd become a mage just like Orion, and she vowed to stack up as many quests as she could to close the gap fast. But ever since those wolves put her through hell lately, nothing went according to plan. Right here in the present, a huge, steaming mound of food gets slammed onto the table in front of Orion at a local eatery. Alice tells Orion to order anything he wants. Then she grabs the bill and insists on paying for the whole meal, because she's determined to thank him for saving her and the merchant earlier. Orion tries to play it cool and says he's already been thanked, but Alice snaps back that one single meal is nowhere near enough to repay her. The innkeeper strides over, spots Alice's plate, and his face crumples into disbelief. Then he blurts out, "So you're really just eating that?" He accidentally lets it slip that she always orders enough food for 3 the moment she walks in, and Alice instantly panics, shoving a hand over his mouth like, "SHH, be quiet." While Orion just watches the whole thing unfold. Alice's face flushes with embarrassment, and she finally admits that one serving of food just isn't enough for her. Orion stares at the huge plate already waiting there, jokes that it's way more than enough food, then his smile fades as he realizes she's dead serious. As Alice digs in, Orion shoots her a worried look and asks if she's really okay eating all that. Then he leans in fast and says that for an adventurer, a massive appetite and snatching food whenever you can is a damn important skill. Alice turns to the innkeeper and demands 2 more servings, and Orion just lets out a heavy sigh like he knew this would happen all along. After the meal ends, Alice straightens in her chair and locks eyes with Orion, her expression deadly serious. She grips her hands in her lap, nerves crackling in her voice, and asks him to let her introduce herself properly this time. She pops to her feet, bows, and introduces herself, Alice Berg, and then drops the bomb. She graduated from the Royal Magic Academy and can wield 3 elements: fire, water, and wind. But she's not finished. She says she can stack those traits into a quad-element rank, then swears she'll never slow him down and pleads for him to take her in as his student. Orion stares at her, utterly blindsided, and blurts to himself that a quadruple element prodigy at her age is straight-up insane, and that she's a world-class talent. He face-plants, completely overwhelmed, because he has 0 clue what he's even supposed to teach someone as gifted as her. The innkeeper shoves out a huge, steaming plate of food and blurts, "Sorry about the wait." The innkeeper erupts in laughter and slaps Orion on the shoulder so hard Orion nearly chokes on his drink. Then he grins and says he's heard every legend about famous Orion straight from Alice. The innkeeper barrels on, praising Orion as a total revolutionary who won't play by the guild's usual rules, and Alice just sits there blushing hard while he tells everyone she never shuts up about him. Orion keeps shoveling food into himself and shoots Alice down, saying she's giving him way too much credit. Then he admits he's not some legendary mage, apologizes to her, and tells her he just can't take her as a student. Alice looks absolutely crushed by the rejection, struggling to squeeze out a single word back. Trying to dodge the topic, Orion blurts out how amazing the food is and asks Alice what she thinks, but she just stares at her plate, heart sinking, because none of this is turning out the way she wanted. After they smash through that huge feast, they thank the innkeeper for the amazing food and he tells them, "Come back anytime you want, just drop in." Alice stands outside, beams at Orion, and tells him he was a huge help today. Then Orion just smiles and admits he had a great time too. As Orion strides into the night, he can't stop thinking about how crazy gifted she is to master 4 elements, and he has this sinking feeling that since they're from different worlds, their paths might be done for good. The next morning at the Adventurers Guild, Alice bolts up to him grinning ear to ear, screams "Master" at the top of her lungs, and Orion realizes there's no escaping her this time. Orion starts snapping, yelling that he already told her he's not master material, but Alice barely even blinks, just making a goofy face and sticking her tongue out at him. They rush into the building, and a hulking, blindfolded brute spots them instantly. He demands to know what Alice is doing here, but she waves it off like it's nothing, swearing it's just a total coincidence they bumped into each other. Alice's cheeks flare red as she blurts it out, She saw Orion and followed him, and the second the words land, panic detonates in her chest as she scrambles to fix it, claiming she wasn't chasing him at all. But Orion just clocks the truth and thinks, yeah, she definitely trailed him. Orion snaps his gaze to the guild's quest board, scans every posting and reward size, and yeah, just like he figured, there's basically nothing worth taking for someone at his level. Alice leans in and asks what kind of quest he's really chasing, and Orion admits he hasn't picked one yet, only now his painfully low adventure rank keeps shutting the good stuff down. The board is plastered with G-rank jobs, track down lost cats, scrub sewer slimes. Orion scans them and mutters that this is exactly what his rank promised, nothing but soul-crushing chores. Suddenly, Alice snaps with an idea and orders Orion to hold tight right where he is, just for a second. She dashes off, then sprints back a moment later with a stack of papers clutched to her chest, shoves it toward Orion, and asks what he thinks about taking quests from that pile. Orion rips through the papers she brought over, and yeah, he admits the gigs look amazing, but you can tell something's freaking him out. He leans in and tells Alice he can't just grab these. He's still trapped at G-rank, and yeah, the jobs look amazing, but he's not officially ranked as a mage, so he lacks the status to take high-level gigs like C or D-rank missions. Alice chuckles like she's already got it all figured out, then slams her hand on the table and tells Orion, "This is where I step in, because I'm saving the day." She drops the truth she's a real C-rank adventurer, and then she flashes a wicked loophole. If Orion takes her as his disciple, they can use the guild's master-disciple system, so Orion can officially supervise and still take on C-rank quests with her. Orion doesn't buy it for a second. He blurts out that it's flat-out impossible, saying it's a huge stretch for a G-rank guy to be leading a C-rank disciple. He shoots her a look and deadpans, "Should I just start calling you Master Alice, now that you're the one with the higher rank?" Alice totally snaps and flails her hands in total panic, shouting at Orion that he can't, absolutely can't, ever call her that. Orion tells her to calm down and face the facts, because yeah, he's totally just joking. Orion's tone snaps serious. She tells him she's got nothing to gain by letting an unranked nobody like him boss her around, and then he counters fast. The Adventurers Guild holds real power in this world. He breaks it down. The guild's rankings are stamped straight onto an adventurer's status, so once they've labeled him unranked, Alice pushing to make him her master isn't romance. It's basically her challenging the guild's authority head-on. Orion reminds her she's a Royal Magic Academy graduate with a bright future, and then he insists he won't be the reason her reputation gets dragged through the mud. Alice snaps back without even listening, yelling that she couldn't care less about her career or what anyone thinks of her. Alice drops her gaze with a heartbreaking look and tells Orion, "I don't want anything else, I just want you to teach me magic." Orion wears worry on his face and tells Alice she's probably rattled by what they just survived, like that kind of danger can scramble her judgment. Alice isn't backing down. She pouts hard and snaps that he's completely wrong. Alice's tone turns deadly serious. She tells everyone about magic no academy ever teaches, then grabs the moment like it's destiny, saying she'll chase every single lead, and that she's sure Orion's magic is the key to everything she's hunting. Orion rubs his chin and realizes she's not about to fold for a second. He sighs hard, then finally cracks and gives in just a little. He tells her to hang around and watch for a bit, just so she can see exactly how he does things. Alice blinks in shock as Orion says, "If you still feel the same after a while, I'll take your request seriously again." He leans in and asks what she thinks about the deal, secretly praying that once she cools off, she'll soften. She's going to realize, shockingly, how wild it is to want a guy like him as her teacher. Alice lights up, asking if this is some kind of entrance test to become his disciple. Then Orion slams the brakes on that idea and tells her straight up, "You're wrong." Alice tells Orion, "Since this is only a trial run, I'm going to prove my worth so hard that you won't even survive a day without me." She strides right into his space and warns Orion he'd better brace himself for what's about to hit. Orion slams his hands to his head, shaking with pure stress, staring at the ceiling like, "How did my life get here?" Soon the two of them stomp into the lawnmower forest, and Orion wastes no time. He shuts down the master and disciple routine for now and orders them to lock in on a simple G-rank quest. Alice is all in, and she blurts out her agreement like it's a battle cry. With starlight in her eyes, Alice declares, "Today, I'm soaking up every single thing I can learn from you." Orion stares at her glittering smile and feels the weight crush down on him. Like, come on, why does she expect so much when all they're doing is standing here picking weeds? He slips her a fair warning and tells her she's going to regret tagging along the second she realizes just how painfully boring the job really is. Alice snatched a look at the quest sheet and saw it clearly, red and green herbs, that's it. so she knew this was a straight-up, no-drama-gathering mission. Alice jabs her finger toward a clump of trees and says they should go look, but Orion cuts her off right away, claiming she doesn't have to bother. Orion leans in and tells him he's hunting green and orange mana. Then he thrusts out his hand and barks the command for the magic to start scanning the area. The Mona orbs burst into the forest, zipping through the air like lightning, and Alice just stares, fully baffled at what Orion is up to. Glowing spheres slam into the bushes and hover right over the exact plants tucked away in the thick greenery. Orion looms over everything, his magic blasting across the area, while Alice just freezes with her mouth hanging open, trying to wrap her head around how much mana he's dumping for something as simple as this. Orion stares into the forest with laser focus, and a surge of confidence hits him. This search is running exactly like he planned. He tells Alice he basically nailed down where everything is, and she just stares at him like he's lost his mind, then blurts out, "What on earth are you talking about?" Across the whole clearing, dozens of glowing orbs burst to life like floating lanterns, each one pinpointing the exact spot where the herbs they need are growing. Orion plunges his hand into tall grass and yanks out a flawless specimen. Then he grins, checks it over, and says the quality isn't bad at all. Alice completely snaps, screaming in full-on shock that he just slipped past the quest-searching part like it was nothing. She demands to know how he could have possibly spotted it right there. Orion stays frozen in his kneel, locks eyes with her, and says, "Because that's the whole point, my magic just works like that." Alice tries to swallow the explanation, and yeah, it clicks in theory, but she still can't bring herself to believe she's actually watching it happen. While she's stuck in disbelief, the orbs keep pointing her toward even more herbs nearby. Alice is still in shock at what she's witnessing, because she's never seen detection magic this sharp, never, in her entire life. Orion waves it off, saying he doesn't even know how to use high-level techniques like detection magic. Then he barrels to the next spot and starts pointing out even more herbs tucked nearby. He stares at the plain red and green herbs and worries he grabbed the wrong thing. Then he proudly shows her a fresh plant he just picked, and it grabs her attention instantly. Alice snaps completely. She screams at him, demanding to know if he realizes he's gripping a yellow herb. She tells him it's an insanely rare material, but Orion just stares like he's lost, then blurts out, "So what, are we seriously making a big deal out of this?" Alice quietly tucks the herb away for safekeeping, while Orion just stares at her, thinking, that thing wasn't even hard to find. Right then Orion's face flickers, he shuts up, stares into the distance, and the monor in the air starts to shift. He cranes his neck at the trees, and suddenly sees the mana orbs twitching like they're on edge, leaving him to wonder what in the world is happening. Orion's peaceful search shatters when a hulking, muscular beast wrapped in bone armor smashes through the trees, and Orion instantly knows the forest isn't safe anymore. Alice jolts with fear and blurts out to Orion, "Did you hear that terrifying roar just now?" Orion and Alice were meant to breeze through a quick G-rank herb job, but the moment the air shifts, Alice's panic explodes. She calls Orion's name, and he stays cool as he tells her, straight up, something is definitely lurking nearby. Alice whips her gaze forward, and the second she sees it, her breath catches. A towering dark monster shape blocks the path ahead, right between them and the rest of the forest. Alice spots the danger instantly and blurts out, "Wait, are you really the Orc King?" The beast answers with a nightmare grin, flashing vicious tusks and dead-cold white eyes. Alice is trembling as she demands answers like, why would a high-level monster even show up in a low-level area? But Orion doesn't blink or flinch. He locks in with a razor-sharp stare on the beast. Alice tells Orion this forest is usually safe for beginners, but Orion just shrugs it off, then casually suggests they should kill it, and Alice's brain totally snaps. Orion doesn't wait around for a plan. He surges forward and thrusts his hand toward the monster, shouting for the green and orange mana orbs he spots floating in the air. The moment he orders it, the mana snaps into action, and a gigantic force rips down from the sky, smashing the orc boss before it even gets a chance to move. Orion hurls the magic command to rain down, and boom, giant boulders crash from the sky like a storm, burying the monster under tons of rock in seconds. Alice just freezes with a blank stare, stunned that he wiped out a boss-level threat like it was nothing, and Orion exhales like, "Yeah, sure," then tells the leftover mana to scatter. When the dust finally clears, Alice gathers herself, finds her voice, and unleashes this long, bone-chilling scream of pure shock at what she just saw. Alice is still dazed from the blast, so she grabs Orion's attention and demands to know what kind of magic that was, while Orion just awkwardly scratches the back of his neck and shrugs it off like, it was basically a meteor strike. Alice can't hold it in, she blasts him for this. It wasn't just high-level magic, he nailed a triple spell with zero chant. Orion tries to shrug it off and dodge the topic, but Alice steps in right up to his face. No escape, no mercy. She demands to know exactly what's going on with his power. Alice tells Orion the Orc King is a monster-level threat, something that usually takes a whole squad of A-rank adventurers to stop. Orion's eyes go wide as he blurts out, so it's really that tough. But in the back of his mind, he's already panicking, because he knows he accidentally showed a little too much of his real power. They both stare at the huge crater where the monster used to be, and Alice bursts out screaming that taking a solo down like that is straight up impossible, while Orion realizes he's gotten way too comfy around her, because he's been showing off way more than he should. As Alice crouches to stare at the remains, Orion's voice turns razor serious for a beat. Then he asks her straight up if his magic creeps her out or feels weird, because it's way past anything normal logic could ever explain. Alice shot him a bright smile, totally baffled like, why would you even ask me that? She stares at her own hands and mutters that her magic still has miles left to run, then turns to him and says, if there's more potential out there, I'm going to chase it with everything I've got. Alice practically glows with excitement as she blurts out that he's the best mage on the planet, then officially declares him her master. As Alice beams with pure admiration, Orion completely snaps. He's sweating buckets, looking utterly wrecked by that sudden title and the nonstop, blazing praise. Orion locks eyes with Alice and realizes she's a kid powered by nothing but ambition, with the kind of pressure and expectations that crush straight through your chest. He starts freaking out about whether taking her on as his disciple was a mistake, because the thought hits him hard. If he lets her follow him, he'll be the one wasting her whole life. They march straight for the Adventurers Guild, and Orion decides the savage move. He tries to kill her excitement by dragging her through the most boring, dull parts of his everyday routine. At the guild counter, Alice slams a huge basket of herbs down and roars that the quest is finally over, then demands the staff get the delivery processed right now. The guild receptionist just stares, utterly stunned. She spots that massive pile of herbs and blurts out how Alice managed to haul all that in, especially since she only grabbed the job earlier that same day. The receptionist snaps into action, telling Alice she hauled back the wrong plants and those aren't yellow herbs at all, and as they argue back and forth, Orion just stands there realizing his scheme blew up. He tried to vanish behind boring work, but now it's turning into a painful, never-ending mess for Alice. Orion clocks the situation, shifts tactics on the spot, and turns to Alice like, all right, time to drop this and move on to the next thing. He leans in and tells her, starting tomorrow, I'm dropping the mindless gathering quests. I'm diving into real magic research. Alice's face bursts into light the moment she sees him. She slips right into his space and fires off. So I'm really gonna be allowed to watch my master do magic research. Orion gets blindsided by the sheer blast of her energy, and the moment it hits him, he facepalms. Of course she'd react like this. She's obsessed with high-level magic. The story cuts to the Scorched Dungeon, and inside the group they suddenly realize Orion is gone, so one of them blurts out, wait, did he really just leave us? Emily, the party's ranger, is completely unraveling and demands, how are we supposed to hunt a dragon without Orion? Luna, the knight, is fuming just as hard and snaps back, this has to be some kind of sick joke. Daniel stares at them like they've lost their minds and snaps, why are you freaking out over nothing? Then he shrugs off Orion's presence like it's irrelevant, saying a deadweight like him wouldn't change a thing either way. He declares today's quest is a dragon hunt, then sneers that someone who can't even cast basic magic probably can't handle the gear anyway, because it'd be way too heavy for him to lug around. Emily just stands there, head bowed, looking absolutely crushed. Emily's jaw drops, she stares at Daniel like he's lost his mind, and all she can think is, what the hell are you talking about? She drifts back through every past fight and realizes the brutal truth. Orion's magic was the only reason they survived this long, and deep down she knows he's been quietly patching every hole and covering for every slip the whole time. Daniel shuts that down fast and tells her flat out it can't be true, then he presses her hard, asking why Orion would be unranked if he's really that good. Emily starts to speak, but her words choke off. She looks away and just can't find the right ones. She suddenly recalls those kid days in the woods, and it hits her. She freaked out about his power back then, and that's on her. So Orion decided right then to start hiding his special abilities from everyone. Emily just can't force the words out to Daniel. She stands there, drowning in sadness, while Daniel's annoyance keeps climbing with every single silent second. Daniel totally snaps. He's yelling at the girls to shut up, and when they don't back down, he turns defensive fast, firing back. Are you seriously questioning my judgment as the leader? He keeps playing the tough guy, laughing like it doesn't matter that they're hunting a dragon, and swearing the whole quest will be a cakewalk as long as they've got a hero like him, while Luna and Emily just stand there, worn out and clearly not buying it. Emily shoots her gaze away, guilt crushing her chest, and she can't stop thinking, did Orion finally snap from everything, decide they're done and walk out for good? Luna finally snaps to the truth. She's visibly stressed, because she realizes Orion has been carrying the whole team on his back the entire time. As Daniel stomps deeper into the dungeon, it's painfully obvious he's the only one clueless about what's really going on, and just how badly they needed Orion. The scorching dungeon heat starts to crush in on them, and Daniel's already drenched in sweat as he blares, "This is insanely hot." Daniel is throwing a full-blown tantrum, barking that he wants to know why it's so scorching, while Emily looks totally wiped and snaps, "Be quiet," reminding him they just stepped into the dungeon. Emily grabs a drink to cool herself down, but the heat is still crushing her. She's fighting to breathe through it. She finally cracks the mystery. This time is harder because, back then, Orion never stopped using his magic to keep everyone's temperature perfectly in check. Daniel is still in full denial, snaps at her to shut up about that nonsense, and stays so drowned in rage that he totally misses it. An enormous pack of monsters is creeping out of the shadows and closing in on them. Luna darts in and clamps her hand over Daniel's mouth to silence him, because his non-stop yelling is already making the dungeon bats cranky and restless. Emily spots the threat before it strikes, snaps her bow up, and lines an arrow straight at the shadows where the monsters are lurking. Everything goes downhill in a blink when a massive swarm of bats crashes down from the ceiling, and Emily stares in shock at the numbers, because they're trapped on all sides, then blurts out to the others, "So what's the plan?" Even Daniel can feel it now. Pressure's crushing in, stress is written all over his face, and he finally admits to himself that trying to pull this off without Orion's help is way tougher than he ever imagined. Even with nerves crawling up his spine, Daniel hardens his resolve, draws his sword, barrels straight into the swarm, and shouts at the girls to trust him with everything. Luna lunges to stop him, but he's already vanished into the chaos. His hero moment lasts about a second, then a bat clamps onto his head and starts gnawing like crazy, yanking him off balance and forcing him to scream in agony. Daniel thrashes around in panic, yelling that he can't land a single hit on those tiny, lightning-fast targets. Meanwhile, Luna just smirks, taking a step back, and reminds him she knew exactly this would happen. Luna slams up a protective barrier to shove the bats back, but you can see it's cracking. She's running out of steam, and she turns to Emily, begging for the next move because her defenses won't hold much longer. Emily yanks out a special crystal-tipped arrow and snaps, "I've got this." Then she orders everyone, "Get ready, bolt as fast as you can." The party dashes away, hauling ass as they retreat, yet a bruised, battered Daniel keeps whining, still baffled that it's him stuck in this miserable mess. After that brutal cave disaster, the whole crew feels wrecked. Luna looks totally drained, and she snaps that if they keep stumbling like this, hunting a dragon will never happen. Then she turns to the others and demands they track down Orion fast, and basically beg him to come back to the party. Daniel doesn't handle the suggestion at all. His face flushes red, rage blazes in his eyes, and he snaps that there's zero way he'd ever do something that humiliating, even while he's desperately yelling that he just had an off day and it's totally no big deal. Even with everything going wrong, Daniel's ego won't let him quit. His eyes harden, and he tells himself he'll finish the dragon-slaying quest no matter what, with zero help from Orion. Later, the whole party rushes to the Adventurers Guild to fix their mess, but the receptionist just stares at them with pity, then tells them their request was already officially declined. Daniel snaps at the counter right away, shouting that there's no way a legendary hero party like theirs could be turned away like that, while Luna yanks at his arm, begging him to calm down, but Daniel's already spiraling into a full-on tantrum. As Daniel rants, he blurts that they could clear dungeons easy if they just brought along a real mage, and then he catches sight of Alice across the room, pointing her out to the girls like it's the missing piece. Alice is just minding her own business when she suddenly feels Daniel's eyes drilling into her. She whips around, and instant annoyance hits, because the way he's staring feels downright creepy. Daniel flips on full charm, strides over, and nails a totally ridiculous sparkly pose, then flashes a grin and asks Alice if she's really the one everyone calls Alice. Alice isn't buying it for a second. She shoots him a skeptical look, confirms that's her name, then fires right back, "Who do you think you are?" Luna tries one last time to get Daniel to stop bothering people, but he just shrugs her off, totally ignores her, stands there like he owns the place, and proudly declares, "I'm Daniel, the leader of the legendary hero party." Alice mouths the phrase, "hero party," back to Daniel, then her voice slips away as the meaning finally clicks. She realizes who she's really talking to. Her gaze hardens and her voice turns ice cold as she stares him down and demands, straight up, if they're the ones who kicked Orion out of the group. Daniel totally misses her tone and keeps playing the big shot, insisting the guild's got the wrong story and that he's really there to scout her. Then he blows smoke about how insane it is that she's mastered 4 elements at her age and how he wants her power for his team. Alice cuts him off with a brutal no before he can even finish, and Daniel's expression just crumples. His brain can't process the instant rejection. She strides right past them, says she's got places to be, and tells them to get out of her way because she's leaving now. Daniel starts to panic, sweat pouring as he yells after her, demanding to know why she just walked away from such a massive opportunity. Panic hits him and he blurts out about the perks, fame, status, and anything her heart could ever crave if she just stays. Then he even promises he'll pay her anything she asks for, anything at all, just to keep her there. Alice pauses, glances back, and admits it straight up. Saving the world is a massive weight, and for most people, that role actually means everything. Then a soft smile blooms across her face, her cheeks heat up fast, and she whispers that there's someone tied to Orion she's desperate to stay close to. While Daniel and Luna stand there totally stunned, Alice grins and finally drops it. She's found her life goal. She's sticking with Orion, so there's no way in hell she's joining their party. Daniel takes a beat, visibly rattled, but he forces a calm grin like it's no big deal. Then he says he understands, and immediately fires back. So who is this person she's so obsessed with? The second Daniel blurts that name, sweat explodes across his face. Then he yells that she's talking about Orion, and Luna's mind snaps like a lightning strike, leaving her frozen in total shock. Daniel's attitude snaps right back to a jerk as he tells Alice to drop the whole idea, because Orion is just unranked trash who couldn't even hack it in their party. He keeps charging ahead, taunting Orion and sneering that he'll never survive as a solo adventurer. Then Luna tilts her gaze down, unease hitting hard, and calls out Daniel's name to make him stop. Alice finally snaps, then a chilling pressure rolls off her as she glares at him, firing a warning at Daniel. Even if he's the hero, there are lines you don't cross. Her face is pure menace, and Daniel instantly crumples. He starts whimpering like he's about to snap from the pressure. Daniel jerks back when the air turns thick with Alice's fury, and the terror hits hard, because the mage he was just trying to recruit is the real nightmare. He looks like he's about to break, barely scraping out a word as Alice keeps locking eyes with him, refusing to blink. Suddenly, Alice's face flips like a switch got flipped, and she snaps out of it, shouting that she was wrong for how she reacted. Alice shoots into a deep bow and keeps apologizing nonstop, confessing that she snapped because she couldn't sit there and swallow it while he was insulting the person she looks up to. Alice is bright red, hiding her face in her hands, and she blurts out that she's totally ashamed for losing control like that. Alice glances at Luna and tells her, "Don't worry about it," but you can still see the hurt in her eyes. How could a party leader say something like that? Luna just gives a shaky, awkward smile like her nerves are tripping over themselves. Alice finally snaps and says she's done. She's leaving because she kept Orion waiting way too long. Meanwhile, Daniel is cowering and hiding, utterly drained and openly humiliated. After Alice storms out, Luna drops her gaze and can't shake the regret. She realizes she totally blew her chance to ask Alice what Orion's been up to lately. Watching Alice disappear out the window, Luna's stomach drops as she wonders if Orion's even okay right now. Then she slams the thought shut, because she knows she doesn't have the right to show up in his life anymore. Back inside, Daniel is raging out. He clenches his fist, snaps out a low, angry shout, and can't believe what he just heard. Luna tries to rein him in, telling Daniel he's the one who messed up and that he needs to treat Alice way nicer, but Daniel snaps back, barking for her to shut up and stop bossing him around. That tension in the room screams louder than any song, and right away, the tavern crowd leans in, whispering, asking, "Did you see what just happened?" The rumors rocket out, and suddenly everyone's laughing at Daniel, calling him pathetic for being scared of that girl, then dragging up how he snapped at her. And get this. One guy swears he heard the current hero only matters because of his master, Edward. Daniel hears every word they say, and it drives him off the edge. He snaps a glare at nothing, stunned that his reputation is getting crushed way harder than he ever imagined. Daniel finally snaps in the tavern, roaring at the gawkers to get out. His life isn't their damn entertainment, and by the time he's bright red and at the breaking point, Luna just stands there, looking worried. Luna yanks Daniel toward the exit and begs him to just get out of there, while Daniel's patience snaps, like he's seconds away from exploding from pure frustration. As they step away, Daniel is growling pure rage in the background, and Luna's mind drifts, because she can't stop wondering what Orion is doing right at this very moment. Meanwhile, Orion slips back into his room, calm as a blade, notebook in hand. Then he grits his teeth and tells himself it's finally time to start the day's work. He stares at his book, *** Introduction to Magic, and starts thinking, why do most people fail to trigger their spells in the first place? Orion sprawls on his bed as glowing mana orbs float around him. Only he can see them, and he smirks because the usual headaches don't stand a chance. Low mana and poor visualization are problems he sidesteps completely, since he can literally command the mana and light up magic on demand whenever he wants. The moment it clicks, he realizes that this one-of-a-kind power is the exact reason his mess has gotten so tangled. Then right on cue, Alice's voice rings from the door, calling him Master. Orion swings the door open and freezes. Alice is already there, way too early, smiling like nothing in the world can ruin her vibe, ready to hit the road the second he is. Alice beams at him and blurts, "I'm so pumped I couldn't wait a second longer." Alice fires off a question, "What are we studying today?" Orion says he's going back to the basics of magic, then leans in and warns her. It might feel dull compared to the wild stuff she's been used to. Orion's nerves start to spike as he panics. If he keeps botching even the simplest spells, Alice is going to clock him as a fraud and regret taking him on as a student. He forces himself to go for it, thrusts his hand ahead, chants for fire mana, and begs it to gather and smash forward, even as Alice stands right behind him, eyes wide in pure awe, already counting down to something huge. Orion tells her to brace for what's coming, but Alice just stares back like, huh, with a giant question mark in the air. Orion clocks the same awkward loop happening again and again all day, and it hits him. He's getting nowhere. Alice finally snaps and screams, demanding to know why the magic won't even fire, while Orion turns bright red, furious at himself for failing this badly in front of a literal magic genius like her. He keeps cycling through the elements, yelling for fire, then wind, then water mana, one right after the other, and nothing hits. His stomach drops as he finally has to admit he's striking out across the board. As Orion keeps getting shut down again and again, he tells himself Alice has to be at her breaking point by now. Surely she's done with him, completely finished. Sweat pours down his face as the crushing weight of all those failures finally digs into his mind, so he snaps back, tries again, and desperately begs the mana of the earth to do anything, just to save his pride. Right when he's about to try again, Alice shoots her hand up and yells for him, snapping his attention back to her instantly. Orion glances at her, and you can see it, she looks crushed. He's sure she's finally had it with his clumsy disasters and is about to lay into him. He's completely useless. Alice hangs her head, admitting she's probably being a little rude with what she's about to say next, but Orion shrugs it off completely and tells her it's totally normal to feel that way, so she doesn't have to worry. That sparks a wildfire in Alice's chest, and she blurts out, "I'm a mage. I can't help it. I have to know what's happening." Orion gets totally thrown off by her sudden burst of energy and just stares back with a confused look like, "Wait, what are you even getting at?" Alice jabs a finger skyward and flat out asks if he's really doubting the magic textbooks, like they're nothing but lies. The thought smashes into Orion like a punch to the gut, and he just stands there, spiraling. Could those magic textbooks be totally wrong all this time? Staring at a towering pile of dusty old books, Orion finally snaps. He never once imagined the world's perfect theories could be wrong, because in his heart he'd always assumed he was the broken one, and he'd already quit on ever truly understanding magic. He stares at her and shoots, "Are you seriously a genius for noticing that?" And it absolutely wrecks Alice, leaving her flustered and blushing to the core. Orion starts tearing through the shelves, and the moment his perspective shifts, he realizes studying these old traditional theories is pointless now, while Alice just watches, looking more than a little confused. He snaps back to her and tells Alice, "I need you, I've got a favor to ask, and I can't do this without you." He helped her with that, and she never saw it coming. She was totally caught off guard. Alice is totally pumped to help at first, but the second she hears what Orion wants her to do, her excitement vanishes fast. She spots Orion clutching a basket packed with scales and blurts, "Wait, are those wind dragon scales? And why do you have so many?" Orion shrugs and says there are likely even more shoved away in the warehouse, then hits her with it. He wants to use them for an experiment. Orion kicks off the ritual, knowing exactly that pumping mana through those scales will forge the specific green and blue orbs, and when he hovers his hand over the basket, the mana crackles to life, just like he predicted. The room's been rigged to make fire magic nearly useless, and Orion leans in, telling Alice he's counting on her. She just gives him a fearless nod. Alice plants herself in position and shouts for the fire mana to ignite into form, and Orion leans in, eyes locked on her, begging to witness every single change in the mana as it happens. Orion's eyes suddenly bulge, sweat bursts out of him, and he spots something that has no right to exist, because what's happening before his eyes feels impossible. From his side of reality, he sees mana crystal clear as the incantation pulls it into place, turning it into the true bedrock of fire, and the shock slams him hard. The way everyone else thinks magic works is totally flipped from what he's actually witnessing. When the chant snaps and the spell's magic surges, Orion realizes the mana isn't fighting back at all. It bends with every word, shifts color, and submits to the spell like it was always meant to. Alice yells fireball, and despite the room being built to stop it, a gigantic burst of flame detonates, scorching everything in its path. Alice can barely believe how powerful it is. Orion's nerves are on fire. He blurts out, asking Alice if she didn't feel anything weird about it at all, and Alice just stares back at him like she's completely unfazed. Totally baffled about why he's freaking out so hard. Alice stares at Orion like he's speaking a different language. She has zero clue why he's freaking out, so she snaps, "Everything looks normal to me." Then the truth hits. In the past, people only invented spells so they could cast magic without ever having to see the mana orbs. And Orion finally gets it. Turns out, for everyone else, this invisible magic is just the way the world works. Orion shifts gears and tells them to try wind magic next, and Alice nods so fast she doesn't even hesitate. She thinks this is just a quick test to see how well the scales work as a catalyst. Orion hears the word catalyst in his head and suddenly realizes, wait, he's actually having an awesome time. He figures everyone else can't see the mana orbs, so they're probably staring at the scales and assuming those are the power source, not the little helpers reshaping the mana already floating in the air. As they gear up, Orion admits, right to himself, that he's got zero clue how people study magic these days, while Alice launches the chant, begging the spirits of the wind to come pouring in. Orion watches her, mind racing because every technical term she spits out is totally new to him, and he's not convinced she gets what he's trying to find either. Still, Alice keeps her eyes locked forward, and with a snap of will, she commands the wind to dance. Even if they don't match beat for beat, Orion still feels the spark. Both of them are buzzing to test new spells. Alice yells wind cutter, and fires it off, and razor-sharp gusts slice through the air. Orion bursts into laughter, riding that sweet wave of victory from the test, wiping sweat from his face as he tells Alice, "Let's find the remaining scales, then we keep these experiments rolling." Then Orion abruptly stops dead in his tracks when a terrifying realization snaps into place. He realizes he blew it when he got way too deep into the research. His whole plan was to make Alice quit on being his. Apprentice or not, he's been glued to her side the whole time, totally geeking out. Alice is all in on the research now, completely fired up, and she shoots Orion a question. Are there any other scales or experiments they can test next? Later, the story cuts to the Adventurers Guild, where Daniel stands behind the front counter, and the receptionist greets him with full respect. Hero Daniel. Back with Orion, he shrugs and decides to let the chaos play out. Sure, his plan to scare Alice off blew up, but honestly, he's enjoying himself for now. At the guild, the receptionist practically tells Daniel, "Edward wants you, right now," and Daniel just stares in total confusion like, "Why am I being dragged here out of nowhere?" As Daniel strides toward the office, a heavy pressure starts creeping into his chest, and he can't stop wondering what his master could possibly want from him right now. Daniel strides into the office and spots Edward waiting behind the desk, and the moment Edward sees him, he just calmly says his name as he steps forward. Out of nowhere, Edward explodes into a full-throttle scream and calls Daniel a massive idiot, right to his face. Daniel's whole body trembles, cold sweat pouring down his face, and he blurts out to his master, "What are you so furious about?" Edward cranks the pressure up and demands, "Daniel, what were you thinking when you banished Orion?" Panic slams into Daniel so hard he can't even breathe. How did his master find out? Daniel tries to save face by sneering at Edward, claiming Orion was nothing but a rankless nobody anyway, while inside, panic spirals because he's sure Orion only ran away. And nobody was there to witness the exile happen. Edward snaps, throws his hand over his eyes, and lets out a bone-deep sigh like he's done with everything. So I can't believe how clueless his student is acting right now, so he tells Daniel the guild couldn't rank Orion, because Orion's magic is so insanely off the charts that their usual indicators can't even begin to measure someone at that level. Daniel is shaking like crazy, drenched in sweat, and he can't believe a word he's hearing. He keeps repeating to himself that this just can't be real. In his head, Daniel still sees himself as the big-shot hero, convinced he's the main character at the center of the party, the guy doing all the heavy lifting for the girls. The fact that the guy he looked down on is secretly the one keeping the whole team afloat is eating away at him. After the exile, everything hits hard. His mage girl snaps him awake and tells him to face reality, while Luna is freaking out because she finally realizes Orion really is gone. In a flashback, Daniel gets swarmed by monsters and looks totally helpless, while Edward snarls that their party hasn't done a thing but fail ever since they kicked Orion out. Daniel blurts out excuses for their recent disasters, shaking as he insists it's just one rough slump they've been stuck in lately. Edward doesn't buy a single word. He locks eyes with Daniel and demands to know if he honestly thinks all those disasters were what. Daniel hangs his head, defeated and tiny, like the fight got ripped right out of him. Standing before his master's desk, he lets out a shaky reply. It's just a slump, but his voice gives him away, like he doesn't believe a word of it. Edward shot out of his chair and left Daniel drowning in silence, then leaned in for one final hit of advice. Drop the pride, call Orion back. He didn't mince words. If Daniel didn't move now, saving the party was already slipping past the point of no return. Daniel looked like he might crack, admitting out loud that the mistake was his, while inside he burned with rage, swearing to himself not to mess around anymore. His ego won't let him fold. He keeps telling himself he's a hero, insisting his judgment can't possibly be wrong, drowning out the truth with nothing but stubborn denial. Orion and Alice stride through town side by side, but Orion's guilt hits him hard. He blurts out an apology for dragging her into his magic tests without ever telling her the real reason, and Alice just grins back like it's the best deal ever, saying she's learning a ton from his experiments. She gushes about how amazing it is to train magic with top-tier catalysts, and in her head, teaming up with Orion is the absolute dream setup for any mage. Orion beams and tells her he's happy she's satisfied with the arrangement, but there's still this tight, reserved edge to him. Meanwhile, Alice doesn't catch a single thing, humming as they keep walking. Alice is totally lost in her own head, picturing flower petals and sparkles floating everywhere, and she's fully convinced this stroll through town is secretly a date with her master. She gets so hyped she starts twirling and dancing right in the middle of the street, and when Orion glances over, he's completely thrown. He asks what's going on. She shrugs it off like it's nothing, even though her excitement is still blasting off in every move. Orion suddenly starts counting everything she's done for him, and he panics. He wants to thank her with a gift or a sweet favor, but every idea crashes before it even takes off. He ducked into a local shop to admire the trinkets. Then the second he looked closer, he knew he was way out of his league, so he admitted to himself, I've got absolutely no clue. Figuring out what girls really like, not just guessing. Orion gets totally blindsided when Alice suddenly yells at the shopkeeper to add another serving to their order, practically buzzing with excitement about the food they're about to get. Orion slams on the brakes, shouts her name to pull her in, and thrusts a giant, steaming bun into her hands. Alice's eyes explode into stars as she stammers, Are you sure I can have it? Like she can barely believe what she's just been given. Alice breaks down with pure emotion and swears she'll cherish this gift from her master for the rest of her life. Then Orion snaps at her to stop the dramatics and eat it before it turns cold. Orion asks if she's even hungry, because that bun is absolutely massive, and Alice tries to play it cool, saying she's not hungry at all. Then, right as she finishes, her stomach lets out a thunderous growl that totally gives her away. Alice drops the act, thanks him properly, and then, like a mission, dives into the food as they stride through town. She digs in like it's the best thing on earth, stuffing her face while shouting it's heaven sent. Later, the two of them drop down at a balcony table to breathe for a second, and Orion glances at her, straight up telling her he was genuinely blown away by the magic she showed him earlier. He flashes back to the way she cast magic in the library, points out how perfectly she read the room, and tells her straight up, the wildest part wasn't the power, it was how gorgeous her magic looked. Alice snaps completely and turns death bright. Flushed bright red by the compliment, she tries to play it cool, claiming she's still nowhere close to his level. Orion shoots her another compliment, then admits he's not even sure he could recreate the magic she just pulled off, and the second Alice hears that, her face ignites into a bright red blush, feeling amazing about it. But then guilt creeps in, and she quickly apologizes for burning through a high-grade catalyst like it was nothing. Orion waves it off with a shrug, saying it's totally fine, because he was the one who asked her to do it in the first place. The whole vibe flips the second Alice peers into her basket and panics, because every last red dragon scale is gone, totally wiped out. Orion's face drops as he murmurs that letting their testing grind to a halt would be a downright waste of all that insane magic they've been so excited to prove. He refuses to let them quit right there and pushes for one more chance. Let's go grab more. He's sure the local guild will have a stash ready for them to snatch up. They storm over to the guild, and Orion strides right up to the counter, catching the receptionist's eye. No small talk. He tells her he's there to buy red dragon scales. The receptionist is totally caught off guard. She scans his adventure card, and her face twists with confusion, asking how a guy who's barely got a G rank would ever need something that pricey and high-end. Suspicion flashes in her eyes as she locks onto him, staring him down, then demands, what in the world is he even planning to do with something that high-level? Orion brushes it off with some vague, just a little research excuse, but the receptionist isn't fooled. she chews him out and tells him that trying to stretch things like this makes him look bad. She keeps pressing forward, telling him straight up that magic has to match his rank, and not the other way around. Then she shrugs and laughs like, "You can throw in fancy materials all you want, but it won't magically make your skills any better." Alice totally snaps at the disrespect and starts screaming at the woman, furious that she'd talk to her master like that. Orion has to grab her by the arm and force her to breathe through her rage, because one more outburst and they'll spark a scene right in the middle of the guild. Orion is fuming because the guild has 0 red dragon scales sitting in stock, and the receptionist keeps needling him, asking if he really wants them that badly, before joking that he should just go harvest them himself if he's so desperate. Orion actually stops to think about it, because yeah, that's the quickest way to grab what they need. Then he hits the wall. He can't even step into a dungeon without the guild's permission. The receptionist smirks and tells him to stop taking her sarcasm so seriously. She tells them the permission system exists to stop reckless little low-rankers like him from stumbling straight into their deaths, and while she laughs it off, Alice stands in the background, glaring like she's ready to fight for Orion. Alice suddenly snatches Orion's sleeve and yanks it hard, and Orion glances down like, "Hey, what's going on?" Alice leans in and tells him this is it, the perfect moment to officially register their master-disciple bond and prove he's got the worth. Right as the words leave her mouth, a booming voice cuts across the room and snaps their attention to whoever's calling. A towering adventurer with a staff strides up to the duo and asks, "So you really are looking at Orion, the same guy everyone swears has been playing Alice for a fool this whole time?" The man steps in, introduces himself as Jais, brags about being a beer-ranked adventurer, and sneers at Orion like he's beneath him. Jai jabs a finger and says, "Deceiving. That's a nice way to describe what Orion's doing," then drops a jaw-clenching declaration on the spot in the middle of the hall. He jeers at Orion's rank, sneering that a coward like him would turn into charcoal the second he sets foot in a high-level zone like the scorching heat cave, while Alice stands right there, cheeks puffed out, fuming at the insult. Alice can't keep her mouth shut. She blurts out that her master could one-shot a dragon without breaking a sweat, and as Orion's name hits the air, she pictures him effortlessly blasting the monster out of existence, Orion. Fran can't shake the feeling that her hopes for him are rising way higher than they should. Jais is losing his mind. He's shouting that this whole situation is ridiculous, and Orion at the next table just watches, stunned that Jais still can't grasp why a genius mage like Alice would ever choose him as her disciple. Jais barrels on, getting louder and more hostile as he stares down Alice and spits that he can't stand people who act like they're a big deal when they've got no real talent to prove it. Alice snaps and fires back so hard he freezes. She yells that she's the one who begged to become Orion's disciple because she actually likes him, and she tells Jai to shut up before he keeps talking trash about a man he doesn't even know. Jai just glares at her coldly, like her words don't even matter, and he refuses to take her seriously. Just as she's about to speak, Jai lunges forward and yanks Alice by the arm, snatching her out of nowhere, so hard she stumbles and blurts a shocked cry as he clamps down tight. Jai yanks her along and blurts that she has to dump Orion and join him as his disciple. Then he starts flexing, saying he's a triple spellcaster, to wow her. He keeps yanking her along, pushing for a place to talk so he can flex his magic knowledge, while Alice fights back with all she's got, yelling that he's hurting her and demanding he let her go, right now. Right when Jai thinks he's finally slipping out of trouble, a hand crashes onto his shoulder, so heavy it stops him dead in his tracks. Orion lunges in, plants himself to stop Jai cold, and throws himself between them with a brutal glare, finally snapping at the B-rank adventurer's reckless behavior. Jai snapped his head around, seething with offense as he stared at that unranked nobody. No one dares lay a hand on him. He glares straight at Orion and snaps, "What do you think you're doing?" Orion locks eyes with Jai and snaps that Alice is clearly drowning in hatred, then adds that it's high time Jai stops shoving his power around. Jai only flashes a smug grin, totally unbothered, and fires back at Orion, mocking him like, "So an unranked nobody is really trying to start something with me." Orion doesn't blink. He locks eyes with Jai and without backing down, says if this is how it's going down, he's ready to take it even further. Jai's face twists with annoyance as he scratches his head, like Orion is more trouble than he's worth, and he leans down with a sneer, telling that unranked guy not to dare underestimate him. Orion straight up throws down the gauntlet and announces a duel, then points skyward, swearing he'll smash Jai into the ground in front of everyone. Also, Jai finally has to regret what he did. Orion strides up to the counter, and the receptionist freezes in total shock. He shrugs and tells her, "That's just the way it is," then orders her to kick off the duel paperwork right away. The receptionist stared at him with sheer panic, like she couldn't believe her eyes, then demanded, you're really serious about brawling a B-rank adventurer. She steps in and tries to snap him back to reality, screaming that the power gap between him and Jai is huge, because if he doesn't watch out, Jai will erase him in a heartbeat, and right there Jai stands smugly, soaking in his own win. Alice stands there, nerves on fire, staring up at Orion like she's begging for answers, because she can't shake the fear of what's about to happen to her master. Orion thrusts his hand forward and gently pats Alice on the head, calming her instantly. He tells her straight up, in this moment, stepping back isn't even on the table for him. Jai drops his gaze with a smug grin as he and the other one step straight into the guild's arena, and the whole crowd tightens in anticipation, because Orion and Alice are about to square off for real, and Alice stares up at Orion with pure resolve, insisting her master must win this fight. Orion pats Alice's head again, grins, and says there's no way he can afford to lose this one. From a distance, Jai seethed with irritation and muttered curses under his breath. Giza's face twists with rage as he glares at them, snapping that they need to stop showing off right in front of him. The final signal, BLARES, and the moment the match officially kicks off is here. Jai grips his staff and dares Orion, promising to expose the giant gap in their power. Then he launches into his incantation, demanding Orion become the living foundation for his flames. Jai snaps at Orion to die, then blasts a massive fireball that tears across the arena like a blazing comet. Orion dug in and stared down the incoming strike. Sure, it hit fast, but the mana burned orange, and that chant sounded all tangled up, like it couldn't hold a candle to Alice's magic. Orion raises a hand, snaps out Protect, and the spell slams away, then he clocks it fast. Jai barely spent any mana, so the attack's power is weak and the whole thing was way below Alice's level. The whole crowd freezes in stunned silence, eyes bulging as they stare at the arena. Jai looks like he's seen a ghost, sweating buckets while he locks onto Orion, and he tries to smile through a jittery, nervous twitch only to blurt out, "What kind of trick did you just pull?" Jai jabs a finger in Orion's direction and erupts into a full-on rant, trying to claw his confidence back, screaming that Orion's unranked because he's so pathetic he can't even master basic magic. Orion just stands there behind his barrier, staring like nothing matters, and it only lights a bigger fire under Jai. He snaps asking why Orion treats magic like it's nothing, then tells him to drop the attitude. Orion flashes a smug little grin and shrugs that he still hasn't mastered chant-based magic. Then Jai snaps, totally losing it, and yells at Orion to stop messing with him. Jai's had it. Every bit of Orion's trash talk stops right now, and he steps in close, fired up, ready to pour it all into one last, decisive move. 3 giant magic circles flare up around Jai as he starts a high-level incantation, and he roars for the fire spirits to become hellfire and torch his opponent to ashes. With a wild, crazed stare burning in his eyes, Jai grins and swears he's finally ready to unleash the strongest spell he's ever got. Jai screams the name of his flare spell, and a raging wall of fire rockets straight at Orion, yet Orion doesn't so much as flinch, just calmly whispers, "Protect." The crowd on the sidelines is watching, mouths hanging open as the action unfolds, are left completely frozen in terror, staring in total shock at the massive power crashing down all around them. Orion plants his feet as a raging wall of fire slams into his barrier, and Alice just stands there, stunned at how effortlessly he's stopping it. When the smoke finally thins, Jai freezes, staring in silence, because the barrier is still standing, even if it's cracked from the blast. Jai is drenched in sweat now, staring at the magic with wide, trembling eyes. He can't wrap his head around it, and it hits him. Orion is running multiple spells at once. Jai thinks that kind of defensive magic usually takes double casting at minimum, but multiple casting, that's a whole other beast. Meanwhile, behind the wall, Orion just chills, convinced 2 layers of his protection spell will hold just fine. Jai S is absolutely losing it. He's pointing at Orion and shouting that he's a brand new kind of rank fraud, while Orion just stands there, arms crossed, and tells Jai to maybe head home. Orion stays calm and tells Jai the brutal truth. Yeah, he's really unranked. Then he shrugs and says, "If that bugs you, take it up with the guild." Jai screams in pure frustration as the fight's pressure finally snaps his staff in 2. Even with his weapon shattered, Jai digs in and clamps the broken pieces in his fist, no backing down. He roars that he's a B-rank adventurer, then tells Orion he'd better not dare look down on him. Jai surges forward, smashing the broken halves of his staff like clubs, while Orion just stands there with a dead-eyed stare, letting the desperate attack slam toward him. Jai's got this unhinged look in his eyes as he snaps that he's about to smash that smug expression. Right off Orion, he snaps into another chant, summoning the fire spirits to supercharge his next strike. Orion jerked his gaze upward as glowing mana orbs spun around him, whipping the air like a warning. Close combat is risky, he thought, but I've got a plan." He barked at the emerald mana to brace, and before he could act, Jai came charging in, rage in every step, yelling that Orion wasn't getting away. Right as the gap vanished, Jai began chanting a fire spell to scorch him on the spot. Orion locks onto the mana orbs like they're the only thing in the universe, barks a single command, and the spell slams into action, making the ground quake beneath him. Before Jais can even land a blow, Orion rockets straight up into the air, leaving Jais frozen, staring at the empty spot where he was standing, utterly lost. Jai shot his eyes up and saw Orion's boots floating right over his head. His mind totally snapped as he screamed, because he could not believe someone was really flying. Alice watches from the sidelines, stunned like the rest, and she can't shake the question, could that really be flight magic? A spell like that shouldn't even exist in the world anymore. Still hanging high above the ground, Orion stretches his hand toward the glowing orbs again. This time, he summons the crimson mana and commands it to obey. Orion stared down at Jais and barked at the mana to ignite. Then a brutal fireburst tore out of the sky and detonated right where Jai stood. Jai can only stare in terror as the flames engulf him, his mind screaming, because he can't even process the raw power barreling straight at him. The dust and smoke thin out just enough, and Orion hangs in the air, eyes locked on the battle, because he knows he's not just fighting a mage, he's up against a high-ranking one, so that one massive blast probably won't cut it. This fight is going to demand more than a single hit. Orion stays locked in, like he's seconds away from ending this, and tells himself it's time to move on to what comes next. Jai's pressure is so thick it's making him sweat, yet he still flashes a nervous grin. Then he blurts out at Orion, demanding to know exactly how he's going to follow up that last attack. Before Orion can even twitch, Guy's staff slams into the ground. Then the realization hits hard. He's outmatched, and he blurts for a timeout. Jai throws his hands up in total surrender, laughing at how he even ended up in this mess, then yells that he was wrong and officially calls it quits. The announcer freezes in pure shock for a heartbeat, then finally slams the call. He roars to the crowd that Orion just won. Alice doesn't even pause. She sprints right up to Orion, buzzing with pure excitement, and tells him he was incredible, that he looked straight up awesome out there. She doesn't stop, blabbing that she's never seen anyone pull off that level of high-precision magic, or take flight like that, ever, and she's 100% sure he's the greatest mage on the planet. Jai stays slumped on his knees, totally wiped out, while Orion just shrugs and keeps moving, like he saw this coming from the very start. Alice grins to herself, still shocked she somehow ended up flexing that hidden strength, and even though she never meant to, she swears she'd never take it back. Alice blurts out that the whole arena can't stop talking about him, but Orion's not enjoying a single second of that fame. He looks downright sick of it, like he can't wait to get away. He brushes it off and simply begs her to drop it. The guild receptionist is still frozen in total shock, unable to believe that some nobody with no official rank just wiped out Jai, yet her mind keeps snapping back to how she treated Orion earlier. She sinks into a deep bow across the counter and admits she's mortified, because all these years of watching adventurers rise and fall still didn't let her see his real potential until it was already staring her in the face. Orion doesn't hang grudges. He flashes a small smile, tells her not to worry, and shrugs that it's easy to get mixed up when everyone's waving fancy gear or catalysts to cover for skills they don't really have. His answer slams into her like a lightning strike. She stares back with a deep, flustered blush, stunned by just how generous and forgiving he's being. The receptionist leans in and whispers that they've hit a snag with red dragon scales, and as she talks, Alice's patience snaps. She starts grumbling that the receptionist is acting way too familiar with Orion. Turns out the whole supply shortage is Daniel and the hero party's fault. They picked a quest to hunt a fire dragon, but they're stuck in the fight and still haven't managed to finish it. Orion hears the rumor that the hero party is behind the whole mess, leans back, and groans in pure frustration, while Alice's face tightens with the same anger, because she finally realizes Daniel is the one dragging everything down. Orion snaps out of his waiting mood, wheels toward Alice, and asks, way too casually, if they should just head out and take down the dragon themselves because the heroes clearly aren't getting it done. Alice gets absolutely blindsided by the suggestion, bursts into a shocked shout, and demands, did he really mean the two of them are hunting a dragon, like for real? She snaps back, saying it sounds like a straight-up suicide mission, and even the receptionist blurts in agreement, because she knows he's strong. Chasing a dragon, that's a whole new level of madness. Orion brushes it off and tells everyone not to panic, saying the fire dragons are easy mode since their weaknesses scream for anyone to see. Then he even dares to say Alice should take them out without breaking a sweat, and Alice just stands there. She gapes at him like he's lost his mind, then demands, are you serious? Orion won't let up. he leans in and says if he slays that dragon alone, he'll finally think about letting her become his disciple. He flashes a quick laugh and brushes it off as a joke, taunting her, "So are you quitting already because you're scared?" Alice refuses to back down, a sharp spark flickering in her eyes as she blurts that it all finally clicks, while Orion stands there, utterly thrown off by her sudden shift in tone. Alice snaps into full rage mode, insisting this dragon hunt is her final exam to become Orion's student, and Orion can only blurt out a confused sound as he realizes his attempt to scare her off utterly backfired. Orion's brow starts to bead with sweat as he locks eyes on her unshakable determination, and he can't wrap his head around the fact that she's genuinely thrilled to go on a suicide mission. Alice is all in now, yelling that she's ready and calling him master like there's no turning back. Orion tries to cool the chaos, but the guild receptionists are already swept up in it. One chokes up over how rough his teaching is, saying it's like a lion tossing its cub off a cliff to make it learn, and the other bolts to process the hunting permit on the spot. Orion slumps there with his face in his hand, wiped out by how fast everything went off the rails, while behind him, Alice beams like she just won the lottery, proudly waving her new permit and swearing to her masters she'll give it everything. Elsewhere, the air turns way heavier. Daniel rallies his crew, swearing they'll clear the dungeon today, no excuses, no matter what. Luna and the other girl at the party look wrecked and drained, and right as Luna turns her head, she asks. So yeah, they're about to charge back in again, but Daniel doesn't even blink, because for them it's the only option, plain and simple. Daniel grips the magic stone like it's burning his palm, feeling the pressure slam into him. He's telling himself their party has to prove they can clear dungeons without Orion ASAP, and he's determined to show his master they're totally fine on their own. Meanwhile, down in that scorching heat cave, Alice is sweating bullets, loudly pointing out just how brutal the temperature is. Then Orion just shrugs and agrees, and they push deeper into the rocky tunnels. Orion snaps into action against the brutal heat, locks onto a swirl of blue mana hanging in the air, and points, commanding the energy to start circling around them. The change hits like lightning, and Alice is totally blindsided. Her face goes wide with shock, but then she bursts into a happy grin, saying that in the cave it suddenly feels unbelievably cool. Orion shrugs it off like it's nothing, saying if they keep pushing in that heat, they'll just burn out and get tired before the job's even done. Alice isn't having it, calling him out for treating it like a joke, demanding to know what kind of logic even allows a move like that. Orion flashes her a tiny smirk, dodges the question on the spot, and tells her he'll explain how it all works later, when the time's right. Right then, Orion snaps into a shocking realization, and it blindsides him so hard he blurts out with frantic hand gestures, panicking because he's automatically assumed Alice is going to stick with him from now on. Alice has zero clue what's going on, and she just stares at him, totally confused. The duo keeps dropping down, and Alice spots it, already the third floor, and somehow the whole descent feels way smoother than they ever expected. Alice kicks off the exploration by unleashing her own magic. She chants a spell, summons wind spirits, and rides a sharp new breeze straight ahead to scout what's out there. After the spell finally hits, Alice whips her head around, gives the all clear, and says there are. With monsters closing in, they've got no choice but to keep moving, safe for the moment. Orion grills Alice about the magic. She just used to scout the area, and she beams, telling him it's called the Compressed Incantation Arrow Blaster, an absolute perfect tool for tracking down where monsters are hiding. Orion mouths the name like it's shocking, eyes wide as it all sinks in. He's heard the idea a million times, but seeing it in the flesh still knocks the wind out of him. Now, he can't stop asking what logic could possibly power a move like that. Alice spots his confusion and steels herself to lay out the magic theory step by step. Most spells demand laser focus. Mages picture the outcome in their heads and recite every chant word flawlessly, but the compressed incantation theory is on another level, letting them skip the whole long routine and finish the casting way faster. Orion rubs the back of his head and admits he's not too sharp on modern magic theory, but he still tells Alice it's an awesome power to know, and she bursts into happy laughter. Alice's mood sours, and she jerks Orion onward, telling him to keep moving and calling him her master, while Orion just grins and quietly agrees it's time to push deeper into the cave. As they stride along, Orion can't stop thinking about how insane Alice's magic was, and he's like, okay, she impressed me, now I'm gonna hit her back with my own skills. Through those dark, rocky tunnels, Orion shuts the world out and flips on his special vision, scanning everything ahead. Then he fires off a sharp mental command to find the way forward. He's hunting for the fastest way to reach the next dungeon level. Then, mid-scan, something totally unexpected grabs his attention. Orion's face hardens, then he freezes in place, tells Alice his search just pinged something, and suddenly they're not alone anymore. Because there's someone else here on this floor with them. Alice's jaw drops. She blurts that Orion can't possibly see that much detail with his abilities. Right, Orion stays cool and nods, then adds there's more going on than just what he can see. As they look forward, Orion's eyes narrow. Things are turning dangerous fast, and then he spots it, a massive swarm of monsters closing in on the group, so thick that counting them would be pointless. Alice can't wrap her head around how he's pulling in every single detail, but Orion doesn't even blink, telling her that as long as she's with him, they'll be fine. Orion halts mid-stride and asks her straight up if this is really a smart plan, jumping into that mess on purpose. Alice glares at him, trying to wrap her head around his concern. Alice snaps into focus and tells Orion, "We keep moving, no stopping," then makes it crystal clear she's strong enough to handle herself while they're trapped in there. Orion just grins at her confidence, then tells her, loud and clear, he won't be a burden or get in her way. Orion insists he gets it, and the two push deeper into the story. Then the narration snaps back about 30 minutes earlier on the same floor. Daniel is blasting out, "We're already on the third floor," and even though he looks a little beat up, he still swagger struts like the whole ordeal has been a joke. Luna let out a long, annoyed sigh at his attitude, then snapped at him to rein in that overconfidence, because they were stepping into territory they hadn't scouted yet. Daniel tells her to knock it off and stop being so cranky, then he throws a laugh over it like it's nothing, and says they're quick. Their progress proves Orion was never needed. He was a loser who just didn't matter to the party. Daniel is bouncing with energy, yelling that today they'll crush the dungeon and finally take down the fire dragon, and Luna can't help but stare, wondering how he's so sure, because they only made it this far on their first try thanks to Orion, and now they've burned through almost all their recovery items. Pushing magic tools without a real mage has to hit a wall, right as she hears a sudden noise and realizes something is charging toward them. A massive rock monster slams down above them with a thunderous crash, and Luna screams at the group, "Keep your guard up, stay careful," as the creature finally rears its head. Luna snaps into a defensive spell, Ground Field, throwing up a protective barrier for the whole party, and behind it, Emily steadies her bow with pretty eyes, even though you can tell she's freaking out inside. Luna strains to stay standing, snapping that facing a monster like this is pure nightmare. Then the golem unleashes a thunderous roar that rattles the whole area. Luna shrieks at Daniel, furious that he's charging in solo again, but Daniel shoves her off and rockets straight toward the massive stone golem with his sword. Daniel gets slammed so hard he screams, utterly crushed by the monster's overwhelming power. Daniel groans on the floor, swearing it hurts and trying to figure out what just happened, only he doesn't know his own foot accidentally slammed a hidden mechanical switch right into the mix. Daniel jerked his head up, beads of sweat flying, as a giant shadow crashed over the group. Then the ground rumbled, and every single one of them stared in stunned silence at what was happening. Daniel fights back, screaming that none of this is his fault. Luna jabs at him and snaps that she doesn't care whose blame it is, it just needs to act, right now, before everything falls apart. Daniel and Luna both look wrecked after the golems slam into them, but they barely get a breath in before Emily snaps. "Wait, something's off." Right as she says it, a monstrous roar rips through the cavern, and the truth hits hard. Every roar and stumble from their side is hauling every monster in the area straight to where they're standing. Daniel stares down the road ahead and his jaw drops. Tell me this is a joke, because a wall of goblins and lizardmen has swallowed the path, and right behind it, the giant stone golem looms like a nightmare. The pressure crushes everyone. Luna turns her eyes away, looking wiped out and beaten, while Daniel starts gasping and hyperventilating, shaking, drenched in sweat, utterly frozen by terror. Daniel finally snaps and drops to his knees, begging with everything he's got that someone, anyone, will come save them. He screams for a savior, but Emily. He just stares at him with total despair, because deep down he knows no one's coming. Emily shuts her eyes, heart pounding, wondering if this pathetic mess is really the end of their journey, like everything they've done is finally coming due. In her absolute darkest moment, she clings to a single thought of Orion. She can't stop picturing his smile, the way he always reaches out to help, and she's left wondering what on earth he's doing right this second. Guilt slams into her, and the truth hits hard. She spent the whole time riding on Orion's strength, doing nothing when it actually mattered. Lizard men and goblins surge forward to wipe them out, and as the monsters swarm in, Emily starts begging for a miracle with tears in her voice. Tears flooded Emily's eyes as one last thought hit her. She's got to get out of here alive, and she'd do anything just to get the chance. To track Orion down and pour out a heartfelt apology to him, right to his face. Right when the monsters are about to slam in, a colossal blast of magic crashes down and wipes the area clean. Then a sharp command sends the enemies flying. exploding everything in an instant. Daniel goes totally still, like he just saw a ghost. Right below him, Emily's eyes blow wide at the exact spot where the monsters were standing a second ago. Alice steps into the clearing, praising her master because she knew he'd bring help. Orion trails right behind her with a heavy sigh, just relieved they arrived in time to save the day. Daniel's jaw drops and he blurts Orion's name, but Orion stays icy calm, shrugging that his trick only works on puny lower-level monsters, while Alice stares at him like, wait, weren't they supposed to be stronger? Emily is completely overwhelmed. She tries to speak, but she's trembling so hard she can only blurt out one word. Tears pour as she stares at him, and she's sure this has to be a dream, because there's no way life could have lined up this perfectly. Orion glances at the crew, and Daniel just stays planted on the ground, stunned out of his mind, until he finally snaps back and realizes the man who saved their lives is the same guy they tossed out. Orion steps in, asks Emily what's wrong, and when he sees her shaking with tears, he realizes she's falling apart. She's sobbing that she truly believed she'd never see him again. Orion leans over and locks eyes with her, and it hits him. This is what happens when someone gets shoved past the edge, pushed straight to the point of total collapse. Seeing them like this, Ryan blurted out, asking if they're okay, and then offered to grab the lid and haul everyone back to the surface, because they're clearly done for if they keep pushing on. In that cave, the air feels razor-thin as Alice, Orion, and Emily stare at Daniel like he snapped, while Daniel clenches his fist and snarls that he's dead serious about their mess. Even after getting beaten and rescued by the one he exiled, Daniel erupts into action, yanking his sword up and swinging like rage gave him fuel. He yells that they're not backing down, not even for a second, because they're pushing forward to kill the dragon like they swore they would. Tears pour down Emily's face as she stares at him in total shock. She blurts out, "Are you seriously still talking like this after we almost died?" Orion and Alice go dead silent and lock onto Daniel with eyes that feel like a knife through his skin. Daniel swallows hard, groans in frustration, and realizes he's totally trapped. Daniel starts to shake, his finger quivering as he points at Orion, like he's clawing for control, and then he decides to call Orion out directly. Daniel flashes a creepy, desperate grin and tells Orion he's about to give him the honor of joining their party again. Meanwhile, Orion just freezes there with a dead, blank stare, like he couldn't care less. The whole cave freezes for a split second, and all anyone can manage is one baffled, disbelieving gasp at how bold that offer is. Daniel doubles down, thrusts a thumbs up, and swears he's doing Orion a massive favor just by letting him slip back in behind him, while Luna and Emily gape in total shock, unable to believe Daniel is really that delusional. Orion doesn't even look bothered. He just casually digs at his ear like he's bored out of his mind, then scans the room like he's trying to clock who Daniel is talking to. Daniel kept pushing forward, acting like Orion had truly returned, because he knew Daniel's magic was too powerful to let Orion go. Ryan slams the brakes on his sentence and fires back instantly, because that's not it at all. Daniel looks absolutely unhinged, sweat pouring, twitching out of control as he tries to play the hero. He insists he's letting Orion back in only because he still feels sympathy for a former teammate, but Orion isn't fooled for a second. He's bored out of his mind. Then Orion cuts in, asking if Daniel is seriously still pushing that garbage, and it hits Daniel like a slap, leaving him flailing and looking even more pathetic. Right then, Alice steps forward, and fury hits like a wave. She plants her feet, hands on her hips, and glares at Daniel like she's ready to rip into him for every single one of his lies. Alice snaps forward and points straight at Daniel, ripping into him for being a full-on hypocrite. She blasts that he tossed his own master aside and left him behind. Then she slams his current offer as pure selfishness and tells him to learn some damn shame. The news slams into Emily like a wrecking ball. She freezes in stunned silence, eyes bulging as her mind scrambles to accept the gut punch that she's been lied to the entire time. Emily finally finds her voice, snaps, "Wait, hold on a second," and looks completely wrecked as she demands clarification. Did Daniel really kick Orion out of the party? Luna isn't backing down. She steps in with a killer glare, demands Daniel explain himself, and wants the full truth right now, while Daniel's sweating bullets because he's completely cornered. Daniel's panic detonates. He can barely choke out a word. Then he stammers, brain scrambles, and he desperately hunts for a lie, but nothing comes, and it's painfully obvious. The girls refuse to let him squirm out. Emily snaps that Orion left the party by himself. Luna presses him harder and says he'd better start spilling, and the disgust on her face is brutal as she rips into him for hiding something this important from the whole team. Cornered with nowhere to run, Daniel finally snaps and starts yelling at full volume, demanding they stop questioning his judgment, swearing the end result would have been the same no matter what. No matter what he tried. Alice snaps her gaze away, disgust blazing across her face, and tells Daniel he's the absolute worst for everything he's done. Meanwhile, Luna can't stop laughing at how pathetic Daniel looks as he sweats buckets. Right when the tension peaks, Emily finally breaks the silence and brings up Orion. Orion flashes Emily a gentle smile and tells her she has nothing to fear, saying he's doing great on his own and pushing himself to calm her worries down. Emily's shoulders finally drop, and she breaks into a warm smile, blurting that she's so relieved he's okay, because even with everything falling apart, seeing him doing well makes her genuinely happy. Alice isn't about to hang around, so she hurries toward the road and tells Orion to get moving right now. Orion nods, agrees instantly, and starts getting ready to leave. Right before Orion leaves, he fires off one final spell at his old teammates, urging them to chill, watch their step, and get home safe. No heroics, no overdoing it. Luna shoots her arms out wide, glowing with spell-charged energy, and she can't stop smiling as she declares Orion's support magic is the best, because her body feels so weightless she swears she's got wings. As Orion and Alice disappear into the forest, the old party stays behind, staring after them. Then Emily blurts out one last thank you to Orion, making it crystal clear. He really saved them back there. Emily stood frozen, watching him disappear, and regret hit her like a punch, because she realized she truly wanted them to keep moving together as a team. She parts ways with a heavy sigh, then it hits her. There's still so much she never got to say. I wanted to talk to him, but the moment disappeared. Now that chance is completely gone. Emily watches Orion stride away, and you can practically see her hold back a full breakdown. She knows she can't beg him to stay after everything that's happened. So she forces herself to move on, and down in the dungeon Orion and Alice start tearing through the floors, clearing all 7 like it's nothing. They finally hit the end and face these colossal, ornate doors, and Orion tells Alice it's time to move. Alice shoots back, "Are you really ready for this?" Orion keeps his cool, stares dead ahead, and Alice snaps, "Master," telling him to just watch, because the way she's about to handle this proves she's more determined than ever. They burst into the dungeon's deepest final chamber. Then the floor rips with a violent shake as a gigantic foot slams down right in front of them. Turns out the big boss isn't just some monster. It's a raging fire dragon, a massive dark-scaled beast that looks way more lethal than anything they've fought so far. The dragon throws its head back and unleashes a brutal roar that slams through the entire chamber, trying to scare the two of them out of their wits. The dragon's roar hits like a wrecking ball, pure pressure, insane, and Alice has to plant her feet hard just to keep from getting blown back. Orion opens his mouth to tell Alice he can step in if this is too much for her, but she's clearly strung too tight. Still, she pushes back, saying she doesn't need him to jump in. She swears she's totally fine, then stops mid-sentence like there's more truth clawing to get out. She finally snaps, telling him to stay back. She's got this dragon all on her own. Orion listens to her, then shoves a teleport crystal into her hands and snaps, "Use it the second things get too dangerous." He asks if she needs any support magic or extra items, but Alice is so flustered she brushes it off and swears she's got it under control. She thanks him for watching her back, then digs her heels in, pride blazing. Since Orion is literally seeing her fight, she refuses to let herself look pathetic or weak in front of him. She locks eyes with him and forces a promise. No matter what chaos erupts during that fight, he's never, ever going to step in to help. Orion finally throws up his hands and says, "Okay, I get it." Then he snaps into position, eyes locked on her as the moment hits, and everything starts getting seriously intense. Alice flips open her grimoire and launches a thunderous incantation, begging an ancient fire to burn the world to an end. Then a blazing magic circle lights up right above the pages. Orion stares as the mana swirls, and the shock hits him. This is the first time he's ever watched a spell of this size unleashed right in front of him. A huge, intricate magic circle blooms on the ground under Alice's feet, and she throws everything she's got into it, yet the mana strain is already cracking through her expression. Fire Dragon looms over her, but Alice refuses to fold. Her spell ignites, and the flames start snapping and spiraling around that massive beast as she steels herself to unleash everything. This is it, the legendary Quadra spell. Most people never even get a glimpse of magic like this, and Alice is launching it right in the middle of the boss room. The dragon tightens its stance as the air scorches with heat. Alice is all in now, and the whole. The next dungeon's higher chamber is about to get slammed by the full force of her power. Orion is completely stunned by what he's watching. Alice is weaving mana like it's nothing, and he can't stop asking himself if she's truly free-controlling it to conjure solid magic that moves like a living creature. His sweat breaks out as he finally realizes he wildly underestimated chant-based magic, because he never once believed it could hit this level. Alice whirls around with her grimoire blazing in swirling flames, and she shoots him a look, then asks what he thinks. Pride is all over her voice as she proudly claims it's a spell she personally invented from scratch. She flashes a massive grin and tells him, breathless, that this magic is pure beauty to her. The fire dragon unleashes a thunderous roar, and you can feel the spell's heat tightening and stacking pressure around it as it keeps charging. Alice felt the strain slam into her, so she screamed a command to fix the spell. Then a blazing magic circle erupted as she shoved her mana into place, forcing the shape to hold against the dragon. Exhaustion hits her like a wave, breath coming in hard, but she digs in her heels, clenches her resolve, and yells that she's not done yet. Staring at her from behind, Orion's mind races back to every shred of magic Alice has shown him since the day they met. To him, her old spells always felt like flawless masterpieces, crafted with care, refined to the last detail, and sealed tight like true works of art. But this magic hits different. It feels raw and untamed, like she's spilling every last drop of her real life into it. Crank the spell into place, no exceptions, until it finally works. Orion watches Alice from behind, and in his head he's like, if I was her, I'd wait for the opening, no straight-up attack. Then it hits him. That's exactly why she's terrifyingly impressive, because Alice is actually willing to square off head-to-head against. The dragon rips through the air on nothing but her magic, and Alice fights to keep her repair spell alive, but the pressure finally crashes in. She grimaces, lets out a pained grunt, and her strength starts to crumble. Orion snaps at her to stop pushing so hard, but Alice digs in, refusing to back down and swearing she can still keep the fight going. Right then, the fire dragon screams like thunder and barrels forward, charging up a brutal breath attack big enough to melt the sky. Alice goes stone, still the moment she spots the glowing light, and Orion instantly knows this has gone seriously, dangerously wrong. The dragon screams and blasts a scorching, high-intensity beam straight at them, unleashing a brutal explosion of heat. Alice stares in pure disbelief. She can't believe they're still on their feet as the blast's heat finally dies down. Orion lunges in and grabs her shoulder to snap her attention back, then blurts out an apology as he's about to take over. Alice blurts, "Master," as Orion strides forward, hands already moving. He surged toward the blazing light, finally thinking, "I've got this, I'll take the dragon on myself." Orion charges forward like a man on a mission, dead serious as he lines up to take the hit, and right behind him, Alice is barely holding it together. She looks terrified of what he's about to do, but he clocks the incoming energy as crimson mana and keeps his cool even as danger closes in. Right then, the fire dragon swings its head wide and blasts a massive, blinding beam of flame straight at them. Alice shrieks for him in full panic as the attack slams in, but Orion doesn't even blink. As the dragon's breath crashes toward them, Orion locks in and realizes this isn't some wild blast. It's mana being puppeteered, so he can grab the reins and control it himself. He reaches for the blazing crimson mana, itching to finally test his theory. Alice is still losing it in the background, shouting that this will never work and begging him to stop. Orion refuses to let doubt win. He pours his all into it, roaring so the energy can blast right through. It actually works, then that massive fire beam gets yanked off course, curving hard to the side and missing them completely. The redirected blast detonates, blam, and the whole area erupts in a blinding flash, yet Orion just stands there, totally unshaken, like it's nothing. Alice cowered behind him, staring in total shock. The dragon's own breath detonates into the wall with a thunderous blast, rattling the entire chamber, its flames turned on it like a trap, leaving the fire dragon reeling in shock. Alice goes totally berserk, crouching low and clamping her hands over her ears as the impact pounds through the air. Orion, though, he stays ice calm, just lets his hand fall after pulling off that impossible redirection like it was nothing. When the noise finally fades, Alice stares up at him with wide, confused eyes and blurts, "What in the world did you just do?" She can barely get a sentence out, words trip over themselves as she stammers, while Orion just stares at her with a blank, deadpan look, like he's already sick of explaining. Orion stares at the scorched trail of the blast and swears it's dragon breath, or at the very least, a pathetic knockoff. Alice goes totally berserk, screaming that he can use a monster's signature move, while Orion just turns his head, rubs the back of his neck, and admits he only figured it out a minute ago. Alice blurts that his magic has always confused her, but what he just pulled off is something her mind can't even wrap around. Orion snaps them back to the present, promising he'll lay it all out once they finally survive and get out. He tells her that for now, the only mission is to take that dragon down for good, permanently, and Alice just gapes at him, totally frozen like her brain just flatlined. As the smoke finally clears, the fire dragon is still standing, alive and seething. Then it unleashes a massive roar that shakes everything. Alice glares at the beast and demands what they're supposed to do after a hit like that flopped. Orion just shuts up, staring as he tells her to stay. He locked eyes with the monster and stepped into the real fight at last. Orion locks eyes with the dragon like, "All right, I'm done playing it safe," and he thrusts his hand forward, whoosh, an orb of mana snaps into existence. Then he glances at the surrounding mana and mutters that they've gotta be furious, getting used like this. Orion plants himself in a field of glowing light and declares, right to Alice's face, that her magic is strong enough to beat a dragon, and he'll prove it. Then he shouts for the crimson mana, and the orbs start spinning around him. The fire dragon snaps its head upward and spots a huge storm of energy gathering right above its snout. Alice's jaw drops as she realizes the magic Orion is summoning is her own move, happening right in front of her. As a giant flaming bird claws its way into existence, Orion drops the truth. His version is nothing but a bargain basement copy of Alice's magic, and his spell can't hold a candle to the real beauty of her original. Even if it's just a copy, Orion's eyes lock in. He tells it straight up, "This is more than enough," and you can practically hear him plotting payback on that beast. Orion rips a command through the air, ordering magic to end the dragon for good. Then the giant firebird rockets down, straight into the monster's face. Alice's eyes go wide. She blurts that the power hits on a whole different level, even though it's the same spell she always uses. Then it clicks. She's finally seeing her master's real strength. Orion watches the impact hit, then snaps at Alice that she's wrong, admitting he could never pull off that magic alone, and then he goes on to say it. It only worked because she was standing right there. Orion watches his copy of Alice's spell slam into place, then points it out. Her magic definitely landed on that dragon, and the energy swirling around proves it's working. And as he stares, the weight of everything he's studied hits him. By standard magic theory, reaching this kind of power shouldn't even be possible. Orion can't stop thinking, this move is straight up insane, because anyone who could actually pull off a stunt like that would instantly turn into a walking legend. Right then, the power surges to its breaking point. Boom. A colossal pillar of light crashes down and ignites a forgotten spell that swallows the entire area whole. Later, back in the village, the news explodes everywhere. People finally talk like the dungeon's cleared, and they're all gearing up to celebrate because the fire dragon is finally defeated. Orion and Alice head straight to the local tavern to finally unwind, and Alice is practically glowing. She's shouting a toast while they clink their mugs together, celebrating their huge win like it's a victory parade. Alice is still riding the high from that fight, grinning like she won the lottery as she brags about the mountain of loot and materials they pulled from the dragon's dead body. Orion leans in and asks if those materials can truly act as catalysts for her magic. Then he grins, admitting he's honestly hyped to see what she'll invent next, and she beams as she agrees without hesitation. Alice pushes forward and says the guild receptionist was totally thrown off. Then she leans in and asks Orion if he'd already stopped by earlier to see how everything was going. Turns out the guild receptionist didn't take them seriously at first. She burst out laughing at the idea that they'd actually killed a dragon, and then, fast as lightning, her smile vanished. And he completely loses it the second she realizes the stuff they hauled back is the real deal. Back at the guild, the receptionist is totally unraveling over the dragon materials. She stumbles over every word, blurts at Orion to wait a second, and frantically tries to catch up to what she's seeing, while Orion just stands there thinking, this reaction is insane for monster parts. Later in the tavern, the innkeeper slams down a giant spread, piles enough curry for 3 people, and Alice practically melts with embarrassment, blushing hard as she admits she's about to shove 2 full plates away right in front of her master. Orion tells her not to stress, because with her secret identity already blown, there's no point playing the perfect lady anymore. Then Alice snaps at him to shut up and rams a brutal kick under the table. The innkeeper just keeps laughing at the two of them. Alice sulks as she shoves curry into her mouth, and Orion sits there looking totally shaken from that sudden hit on his leg. The innkeeper clocks how happy Alice is and leans in like, so Orion finally gave up and made you his official student, huh? Alice doesn't even answer, she just keeps smiling, humming over her meal like she's already hit the jackpot. Alice bursts out laughing and says she isn't officially his disciple yet, but she's grinning because they just hauled back a mountain of dungeon loot. Orion jumps in right away, nodding like, yeah, every bit of that effort was absolutely worth it. The innkeeper clocks Orion's hesitation and asks what's really going on, wondering what problem could possibly be scaring him off from taking earnest Alice in as a student. Orion only smirks and admits he's got 0 complaints about her. The innkeeper basically tells Orion, just accept it already, because seeing a top-tier adventurer grovel for some nobody to train her looks insane, and Orion's got to break the awkward tension by just saying yes. The innkeeper bursts into a hearty laugh, clearly loving every second of it, and says that at the end of the day, apprenticeships are really just a person choosing what they want for themselves. He leans in and admits that after years in this business, he's gotten insanely good at reading people, and he's sure of himself, right down to his. The gut punch ability to clock that something huge is going down between the two of them. Orion keeps munching and flat out, admits that the fact he's even stressed about being a good enough teacher proves he's genuinely decent, and as he and the others settle into the tavern, he grumbles that the world is packed with shady creeps who spend every second trying to swindle folks out of their hard-earned money. He locks eyes with Alice and bluntly tells her, right to her face, that he can prove she's the kind of person you can trust with anything. Orion just smirks to himself, wondering if this is really how their bond is supposed to feel. Suddenly, Alice snaps into a full-blown panic and blurts that he's not supposed to fall for this so easily. She bursts out yelling at the innkeeper, slamming Orion as a total dimwit, then snarls about how he basically handed over his life as a guarantor for those super sketchy loan papers just the other day. She's completely unraveling, screaming that if she hadn't stopped him in time, he'd be stuck with a total disaster on his hands from that one massive mistake. Then her fury fizzles out, she exhales, breaks into a small smile, and admits it. Sure, he's a little hopeless, but the innkeeper was right all along, he's a good person. Orion just scratches his head, cheeks burning with embarrassment, as she exposes all his dirty secrets right out in the open. Alice finally calls him Master, shrugs off adventure ranks as a pointless formality, and then she, so confident that everyone will see how truly great he is sooner than you'd think. Orion tilts his head and thinks, so that's how the world runs. He realizes one crazy event doesn't magically erase people's viewpoints, common sense, or the heavy pull of authority, and he clocks the real problem. People get terrified of what they can't understand, so their first move is always to shove it away or cut it out. While Orion is lost in his own thoughts, Alice snaps to attention, a brilliant idea sparks, and she blurts his name like she's found the answer. A fierce determination ignites behind her eyes, and she pushes the plan. Next mission, we hit a mountain cave and hunt an ice dragon. Orion is absolutely stunned by the suggestion, and he can't even process what he's hearing. Alice doesn't even blink at his shock. She just keeps rolling, saying she finally cracked what her weakness was in the last fight, and she's swearing she'll win the next one. She tells Orion she'll take it on alone, no effort from him needed, but the second it's out of her mouth, Orion cuts it off cold, refusing to let her charge into something that reckless. Orion's jaw drops at her attitude. He thought the orc boss encounter would have wrecked her for good, but she's still buzzing with energy, begging for the next fight. He watches her get all fired up, and the realization hits hard. If he leaves her alone, she might actually snap and march straight up to a dragon on her own. To yank the whole moment back to reality, Orion drops his gaze to the table, and he starts grilling her about the entire master situation. Orion's eyes lock on Alice, and he finally drops the question, "Wanna officially form a party with me?" And before she can even think, Alice pops to her feet and yells that she's totally in. Then Orion shoots a finger up, stopping her mid-word, and admits there's a catch. He starts laying into her, warning that reckless solo dragon hunting is officially a no-go from now on, and if she's set on tackling something that massive, they're doing it together as a real team. Just as the room finally quiets down, the innkeeper strides over with a stained mug in hand, spots the shock on Alice's face, and demands, "What's going on?" Alice snaps that Orion's acting like a ridiculously overprotective master, and the innkeeper just chuckles it away. Then he grins and says they honestly look like the perfect master and student duo. Orion crossed his arms, snapped his gaze away, and let out a sharp annoyance at the comparison. Then he insisted he was being completely normal, like everyone wouldn't panic if an acquaintance got hurt. Alice spots her opening and perks up, asking if he'll finally own up and officially take her in as his student. Orion doesn't blink and shuts it down fast, saying that's a totally separate conversation. Alice lets out a small, heart-sinking sigh. Again, the disciple front crushes her hopes. Staring at the empty plates on the table, Orion can't help but get lost in thought, because the way things turned out is wild, especially since he was fully convinced he'd spend the rest of his life as a lone adventurer after his old party kicked him out. He's stunned because he never, ever imagined he'd live to see this day, and definitely not this soon, where he could actually picture himself feeling totally fine with jumping back into a party. Alice throws one last wave at Orion and yells that she'll see him tomorrow, and Orion only glances back with a tiny smile, promising they'll meet at the workshop. Then later, two boots hush along the ground in a steady, sneaky rhythm. Turns out Luna's hiding right nearby, crouched behind the trees, eyes locked on the duet, worry swirling all over her face. A Few hours back, Luna's standing outside a cave mouth, eyes wide with panic, frozen on what to do next, while Daniel nearby starts snapping, cursing Orion's name like he's losing control. Inside Daniel, panic and fury explode over the rumors that Orion is a top-tier mage. Daniel rips into the talk like it's trash, swears Orion is nothing but a rankless dropout, and flat-out refuses to believe it, even though Orion is clearly talented. Daniel flashes a creepy grin and tells Luna he's meeting someone today to crush the rumors and prove everyone wrong, but Luna just stares at him, totally stunned that he'd stoop to something this petty. Luna lets out a heavy sigh, thinking Daniel's grudge is pure nonsense and honestly just pathetic. Deep in the forest, Yulia, this young girl with a worried heart, whips her head around, calls out Alice's name, and begs the woods to tell her where her big sister is. Daniel steps up to her with a bright smile, welcomes her in, and blurts that he's been waiting all this time. Then Yulia looks up, eyes sharp, and asks if he's the Daniel she's been searching for. While Yulia frantically scans for her sister, Daniel suddenly hits her with a bombshell. He tells her the truth that Alice isn't really part of the so much for a party at all. Yulia's mind goes blank the second she hears the news, and she blurts out a shocked gasp. Then she yanks onto Daniel's gear, glaring and asking if he just played her, because the only reason she showed up was that she thought she'd be partying with her sister, Alice. Daniel's panic erupts, sweat pouring as he blurts that even this whole mess is a shock to him too, and he scrambles to steady her, begging, "Just listen to me for a second, please." Daniel tries to steer the conversation, then blurts out, "So, Yulia, was Alice really your senior back when you and I were both at the Magic Academy?" Yulia's mind snaps back to her school days. Alice was basically a legend, valedictorian through and through, and somehow she still took the time to reach out and chat with a dropout like Yulia. Suddenly, Yulia's eyes flare bright with pure excitement as she clocks what's going on. She tilts her head up at Daniel, eyes shining like constellations, and asks if he wants the whole tale, how she and her sister first crossed paths. Daniel looks like he'd rather be swallowed by the floor than stand here, laughs nervously, and tells her, "I'll pass on the trip down memory lane." From up in the distance, Luna can tell Daniel's patience is snapping fast. This whole mess is killing him, while Yulia just drifts in the background, totally brushing off his bad mood and blabbering about her sister like nothing's wrong. Yulia shot up one finger, locked eyes with me, and then ripped straight into her story like it couldn't wait, snubbing Daniel's desperate attempt to shut it down. Daniel huddles in close to Yulia and whispers that there's a real reason her sister isn't in the hero's party right now. Yulia stares at him, totally thrown off, but Daniel barrels on anyway, spinning a straight-up lie. Alice is supposedly being yanked around by a scummy mage named Orion. He claims Alice was meant to stand with the heroes, yet she's been tricked into crawling as Orion's student. And while Yulia's caught in the story, Luna watches from behind a wall, her face twisted in pure disgust at Daniel's stunt. The thought of her legendary sister, playing the apprentice to some random nobody, hits Yulia like a punch. She starts trembling at once, convinced the person behind this has zero fear of the gods. Daniel blurts out that he knows, right to the bone, how terrifying Alice gets when she turns serious, and the moment he says it, you can practically see him drained, while Alice stands there, stone still in his mind. He keeps the con rolling, leaning in close to Yulia and snarling that Orion is a deadly scammer who even got Alice totally wrapped around his finger, while Luna stays in the shadows, watching every move as the manipulation unfolds. Luna is at her breaking point. She grips the stone wall so tightly her whole body shudders, and the thought hits her like a punch. Daniel is officially the worst person she's ever met. From the shadows, Luna can't believe it. Daniel is dumping lie after lie like it's nothing, and then Daniel swivels toward Yulia, claiming that because she's an elite mage and close to her sister, he's got a special favor lined up for her. Daniel leans in and spills the truth. His real endgame is to recruit Alice into the hero's party someday. Then he turns to Yulia and demands her help. "Help me crush Orion's name so hard that the whole town stops trusting him." After Orion's reputation is dead and buried, Daniel figures he can swoop in, take control, and finish the job. He leans in and tells Yulia that if they just give that guy a little trouble, Orion will crack and finally show who he really is. Then he locks eyes with her and asks straight up if she can handle doing it for him. Luna can't even process what she's hearing. She peeks from behind the wall with a dead-still, blank stare, and the silence is killing her. 1. Seriously, how could anyone buy that sloppy, painfully obvious lie? Yulia's blazing with rage, promising she'll rip Orion's fraud wide open for her sister's sake, while Luna, standing there, can't believe Yulia just bought Daniel's nonsense hook, line, and sinker. Then Daniel leans in and drops more fuel. Orion and Alice have been disappearing alone together, shut away in an alchemy workshop for research. And the moment Yulia imagines them trapped in there together, she completely snaps. Jealousy floods her and she snaps, no more waiting around. She calls the whole mess unfair, then charges right in there without a second thought. As Yulia stomps toward the workshop, Luna gets left behind by the tree, freaking out, clueless on how to handle this disaster, or even what she's supposed to do next. Luna decides she can't just stand by, so she slips into their wake and starts tailing them, swearing that if this turns ugly or spirals out of control, she'll jump in and shut it down. We cut to Orion's alchemy workshop, a solid, no-nonsense building, where Orion and Alice have been grinding away at their work. Inside, Alice is busy helping out, clutching a teddy bear, when she spots Orion's distracted eyes and blurts out, "What's haunting you?" Orion grips the dark materials they've been studying, and when she tries to question him, he waves her off, telling her it's nothing and that he's just lost in his thoughts. Then he stops himself because deep down, he knows it's finally time to explain how his magic really works to her. When he brings it up, Alice freezes in pure shock and blurts out, "Are you actually serious?" Orion stared at the stuff in his hand and thought, if we're really going to keep doing this, she deserves the truth, because once she learns his secret, she'll catch on to the truth, realize she's got nothing left to gain as a student, and then she'll likely pack up and go. Orion blurts that he should have spilled his secret to her way earlier, and Alice can't stop smiling as she practically begs to hear the mystery behind his magic, until a brutal knock slams the workshop door, and both of them whip around, with Orion demanding who's coming. Orion swings the door open, and there's Yulia staring him down like trouble. She comes in hot, saying she heard a guy named Orion is staying here. Orion lifts his hand in a steady wave, confirming with calm confidence that he's exactly who she's searching for. The second he confirms it, Yulia whips her finger straight at him and snaps. She calls him the root of all evil, then warns him to get ready for what's about to hit. Orion's stunned by the kid's nonstop energy, but Yulia doesn't even flinch. She barrels straight into his space, swearing she'll rip off his disguise and rescue Alice from him no matter what it costs. Alice peeks out from behind Orion, totally baffled by what's going on, and Orion clocks it instantly. This has to be someone Alice knows, a friend or maybe family. Orion doesn't snap back at all. He just grins, opens the door, and asks if she wants to step into the workshop with him for a bit. Yulia gets even more flustered by his total calm, and she blurts out, "Are you just pretending to act cool?" before telling him to stop messing with her. She freezes in place for a beat, silent as the world holds its breath. But she huffs, stomps her way into the workshop anyway. Orion stands there with arms crossed, glaring and demanding to know who this girl is supposed to be, while Alice is totally thrown by the sudden arrival. Before anyone can even blink, Yulia bursts forward and yells for her sister, and Alice freezes in full shock, seeing her pop out of nowhere like she's been teleported. Yulia clamps Alice in a massive, joyful hug and blurts that she finally found her sister, while Alice, crushed by the sudden squeeze, can barely manage a single full word. Alice starts panicking, shouting at Yulia to get off her, because they're right there in front of Orion, while Orion just stands in the background, looking wrecked from the whole mess. Alice finally steadies herself, clears her throat, and says to Orion, "You can breathe, I'll handle the introductions," while Yulia just stands there, glaring like she's mad at the whole world. Yulia isn't holding back for a second. She pouts hard, turns her face away, and you can tell she'd rather be anywhere else. Yulia snaps at Alice that she shouldn't even waste breath introducing herself to a guy like Orion, and Alice immediately explodes, calling her an idiot and ripping into her for disrespecting her master right in front of everyone. The two of them snap back and forth, and Orion just stands there in awkward silence. Then he finally exhales, throws his hands up, and tells Alice to hurry and introduce the girl so they can get moving. Alice lets out a heavy sigh, then points at Yulia and tells her, "This loud kid, she's a girl," like she already knew it back at the Magic Academy. She leans in and reveals the twist. Yulia wasn't just some new face, she was her junior back in school. At school, she revealed her specialty, catalyst preparation. Julia jabs her finger straight at Orion and yells that he's straight up tricking her sister, while Alice stands behind her, frozen in total shock at the sudden blast of accusations. Orion only sighs, keeps his tea in hand, and fumes to himself about how he's been getting pulled into these annoying misunderstandings way too often lately. Yulia grabs Alice's attention and demands she wake up and face the truth, then drops that she heard a rumor about what kind of guy Orion really is. Yulia roars that Orion's just leeching off Alice, and the claim is so wild it snaps Orion's breaking point. He blurts in shock and sprays his tea everywhere. While Orion coughs and chokes in the background on his drink, Alice's face goes pale with shock, then she fires off, asking Yulia where she learned a trashy word like leech. Alice lunges in and clamps a hand over Yulia's mouth to silence the mess, then turns to Orion and blurts out an apology, because the kid's stubborn as hell. Once she's latched onto an idea, she won't hear a word. Orion just stares, and the whole time, he realizes she's basically acting just like Alice. Yulia keeps fighting and squirming, muffled sounds bursting out, while Alice clamps a hand over her mouth, squeezing down hard to shut her up. Yulia finally squeezes out her chance, eyes blazing with purpose, and declares that since everything has spiraled like this, she's got a whole new plan. She snatches Alice's hand and blurts that she's crashing Orion's party too, leaving Alice totally stunned. Yulia lays out her plan. She'll join forces, tear Orion's scam apart, and then drag Alice back to the guild. Orion just stands there, staring like he can't move. He stared around, completely lost, like none of it made sense. Yulia won't tolerate a single drop of Alice's selfishness and blasts her sister with the truth, wake up and face reality. Next, the two sisters start squaring off, trading blows in a punchy cloud of dust, and Orion can only stand there on the sidelines, bracing himself as the whole situation turns into pure stress. Orion takes a slow sip of his tea, then his mind spirals. Yulia said he was wearing a mask, but he's got no clue what she means. He glances at the supplies and instantly realizes this. If Yulia can compound catalysts like nobody else, she could be the missing key to the research they're pushing. While Yulia keeps toying with Alice, Orion can't stop wondering, would that girl actually help them at all? He keeps sipping his tea, thinking, if Yulia's trying to haul Alice back to the guild, then her tagging along with the party is basically the perfect setup for me. Orion stands amid his research gear, muttering to himself that his plans usually crash and burn, and then Alice steps in and demands his final call on everything. Yulia struts in with smug confidence, telling Orion that letting someone like her join would be a reckless move, because she swears she can see through every lie he throws out. Alice looks completely drained by her sister's attitude, then snaps to Yulia that she's about to witness Orion's real nature. Alice shuts the whole debate down by grabbing Julia's cheek and with a blunt little jab tells her that she's joining the party and she doesn't get a choice, whether she likes it or not. Orion stays stone calm and tells everyone he truly doesn't care about what's going on, but Alice snaps and explodes with a huge shout of disbelief, while Yulia just freezes in stunned silence, staring at the chaos like it hit her out of nowhere. Yulia's eyes darken and a brutal energy starts pouring off her, and she snaps, "Are you really just messing with me?" Then she warns them to brace for whatever hits next. Orion looks painfully awkward as Alice sulks in the background, fuming because he welcomed Yulia so fast. Meanwhile, it took her forever to win even a sliver of his good side. Eventually, the crew makes a beeline for Orion's alchemy workshop, a tiny stone building tucked deep in the woods, silent as a secret. Inside the workshop, Alice's confidence wobbles. She hesitates and asks if it's really okay for them to be there, because she's terrified of overhearing the secrets behind how his magic actually works. Yulia's back to clinging to her sister like crazy, but Alice is stuck in her own head. She admits it feels totally weird hearing his secrets when she's not even his official student yet. Orion studies how Alice carries herself, and it hits him. This girl means every word, and her honesty is bone deep. Orion tells the girls, bluntly, that he doesn't even fully understand how his magic works, so they shouldn't pin all their hopes on it. Then Alice plops on the bed with Yulia and presses him one more time, asking if he's really sure about letting them in on this. The moment Orion hits the green light, Alice's eyes light up like fireworks and pure excitement takes over. You can practically see it. She's dying to hear every word he's about to drop. Yulia snaps on her sister for being rude, but Alice refuses to fold. She fires back that learning from some unranked nobody who's probably a fake is pointless, and Yulia still pouts, insisting she's getting in on it too. Then Alice explodes, yelling back as her stubbornness really starts to get under her skin. Suddenly, Alice does a complete 180 and lights up with pure excitement. She grabs Yulia and insists they should listen to his valuable lecture, then even dares to suggest they become his disciples together, while Yulia just stares back with a deadpan face. Yulia flat out shuts the idea down, screaming she hates it, and the second those sisters start snarling and shoving each other around, Orion just stands there, painfully awkward, asking if he can finally get the lesson rolling. Orion kicks off the lecture by breaking down the fundamentals, how magic usually runs on an element you're tied to, and a chant that turns words into real power, like sparking a fire when you're freezing, and he leans in, asking if that's exactly how everyone's always pictured it. Alice shoots her hand up, agrees on the spot, and then makes it crystal clear. Orion is the one exception. Yulia's jaw drops, she looks totally lost and snaps, "What are you even talking about?" She starts to wonder if he's really claiming magic has a whole different way of doing it. Alice just stares at him, like she's daring him to make his next move. Alice begs him to show that move, and Orion scratches the back of his head, confessing that pulling it off feels downright embarrassing to him. Even with embarrassment burning his cheeks, Orion snaps into position, chanting that fire will bring enemies down, while he shapes his hand into a gun. Orion plants himself in the middle of the workshop and strikes a pose while the girls stare at him, and the look on his face turns deadly serious as he steps into the spotlight, ready to unleash his one-of-a-kind magic style. Yulia keeps her eyes glued to Orion, then blurts that nothing's happening, no surprise, because he's unranked and probably can't use magic, right? The moment she finishes, Orion snaps his command for Crimson Mana and orders it to fire, bam. A blazing fireball erupts in front of him, and Yulia freezes, fully stunned. Alice is absolutely buzzing and blurts out to Yulia, "Did you see that?" Then she launches into a bragging spree about how that's the real power of her master, while Yulia just freezes there, stunned out of her mind. Yulia snaps back fast and starts yelling again. She tells Orion to stop acting like a tough guy just because he launched one tiny fire bullet, and Orion blurts back that he wasn't even trying to show off. With a point to prove, Yulia steps forward and tells him straight up, if he wants to teach her sister, he has to stand on her level. Then she starts a chant to blast her enemies away and summons her own blazing flame. Yulia struts around, smirking that her magic comes from her superior imagination, while Orion strides in to stare closer at the fire she just conjured, and Alice is left slumped, completely drained from their constant bickering. Yulia leans in and asks Orion if he's finally clocked the truth. He's not worthy to be around her sister. Orion freezes up, then admits it. He never really believed he deserved to be there at all. The air turns heavier fast. Alice stares at Orion, shocked that he doesn't clap back at her sister's insults. Orion lowers his gaze, the shadows swallowing his face, and then he looks straight at Alice and finally starts talking, like he's ready to confess exactly how his magic works. Orion locks his gaze on the roaring flames and spills the biggest secret of all, telling the girls why his magic is. It's different because he can actually see the monolith for real. Alice and Yulia just freeze there, blank-faced and speechless from what they heard, while Orion's sweat pours down as his biggest secret finally blasts out loud. The moment haunts him. Back when he was a kid, Daniel would point and mock him, calling him a liar right in front of everyone, and Emily would scramble to shut it down. Even strangers on the street used to shout at Orion too, because he'd get so wrecked by the mana he spotted that he'd nearly plow right into them. He still remembers how brutal it felt to be the weird kid, while everyone in town gossiped behind his back, calling him a space cadet who never even noticed what was happening right in front of him. Standing there right in the moment, Orion can't stop imagining how insane he must look, like to everyone else. He's just some guy ranting about things that don't exist. Alice shatters the silence, fires off his words again, and demands, "Are you really serious about seeing Mana?" And you can tell she's struggling to make sense of the whole wild idea. Orion clocks how calm she's acting and says she doesn't look even a little shocked. Then she slaps a hand over her face and blurts that she's absolutely losing it, even if she's hiding every crack on the outside. Yulia is anything but calm. She blurts out that she can't believe this wild story, then stops dead, stares, and suddenly clicks. If Orion's telling the truth, then that's the only reason her sister shot up in magic so fast. Yulia's brain basically starts smoking, but Orion flashes her a shaky little smile and says it's okay, because this is exactly the reaction he's always expecting when he tells someone the truth. Orion locks his gaze on the fireball Yulia made earlier, because to him, it's not just fire. He can spot the exact weave of emerald mana threading through the heart of that red and orange blast. Orion crosses his arms and gives Yulia real credit, telling her that the way she arranges her mana. Anna absolutely crushed it. He didn't just talk trash, he proved it. Yulia huffs, glaring at Orion, and snaps. Does he really think he can just stare at her magic and instantly get it? Orion doesn't just brag. He thrusts out his hand and starts bending the mana orbs in place. He says he has to nudge the green mana a bit higher, then he barks for the crimson mana to crash into the mix. Orion snaps one simple command to fire, and the spell detonates in a violent burst of flames, exploding right in front of them and flooding the room with scorching heat and blinding light. Yulia gets slammed backward by the raw impact, eyes wide with pure terror, then she shrieks, "His fireball is huge. There's no way this is really happening." Alice whips her head to her sister with a smug, proud grin and demands, "Did you see that?" Then she tells Yulia that Orion can copy any mana he lays eyes on, while Yulia sinks in the background, totally soul-crushed. Alice is on fire, yelling that, yeah, things have been wild for ages, but now that she finally knows his secret, everything clicks into place. Julia starts whipping her arms around, fully losing it at just how unfair all of this is, screaming that it's basically a scam and that it shouldn't even be happening. Alice plants her hands on her hips and warns Yulia to knock it off, because if she pushes any further, real anger is about to snap. Yulia fires back, calling the whole thing pure nonsense that has no business existing. Alice shrugs off the logic completely. She's glowing with inspiration, sparkling like a star, and she yells that the power to pull off the impossible is exactly what makes Orion so special. Yulia just stands there, utterly stunned, like her brain short-circuited, and all she can do is. He quietly repeats Alice's words, like she's telling the truth about him being the one who makes the impossible happen. Yulia locks eyes with Orion like she's seeing a shooting star and declares him her master on the spot. Then Orion throws up his hands, looking completely swamped, and tells her to chill because this praise is spiraling way too fast. So Alice jumps in, reminding Yulia she's got a noble job to bring Alice back home. And Orion just stares at them with dead tired eyes, while Alice clears her throat and pushes them back to the real mission. Alice steadies her breath and nods, focus first. Then she whips her gaze to Orion and fires the question she's been holding back, straight up asking what his mana looks like when he sees it through his own eyes. Orion kicks things off and jabs a finger toward the sky, showing them the impossible stuff he can see. Then he adds that even right now, mana is zipping through the world, swirling all around, and to him it's nothing more than separate glowing spheres of light. As Alice and Julia lean in, Orion pauses mid-thought, then admits it's way tougher to explain how he sees the world than it sounds. Alice blurts that it's a sight she can't even picture, then hammers him with one question. So you're really telling me your whole field of vision is packed nonstop with those mysterious orbs, glowing in all 6 element colors? Orion snaps into action and straight up corrects her, telling Alice it's not really 6 colors. Then Alice explodes, screaming that it makes no sense and demanding to know how the mana can ignore the 6-element rule. Orion tells her, that's exactly why I faceplanted so hard with modern magic textbooks back then. Then he leans in and says, because the mana I can see doesn't line up with just 6 categories, so every lesson built on that nonsense never once made sense to me. Alice's eyes light up like the answer finally clicks. She leans in and asks if the real secret behind his effortless chantless magic is his weird, unique way of seeing mana.